The Last Great War stands as one of the most significant and transformative events in human history. Though much of its specifics remain shrouded in ambiguity, the war, waged primarily with nuclear weapons, wreaked havoc across vast stretches of the globe, leading to the near-total destruction of Russia's population centers, the devastation of the United Kingdom, and severe damage to parts of Alaska, Siberia, and Canada. These areas were left uninhabitable due to radioactive fallout. Despite the unparalleled destruction, the United States and China emerged largely unscathed, thanks to their geographic size and military preparedness. This resilience, combined with the catastrophic consequences faced by other nations, set the stage for the eventual unification of the surviving powers. Out of the ashes of the war, Super Earth was born, an amalgamation of political, economic, and military power designed to ensure the survival of humanity in a world irrevocably altered by the war's devastation. Welcome to the world of Helldivers. Helldivers is a squad-based shooter developed by Arrowhead Game Studio set in a dystopian future where humanity is governed by the managed democracy of Super Earth. As part of the Super Earth Federation's elite Helldivers unit, players must cooperate to protect Super Earth and defeat mankind's enemies in intergalactic warfare. Helldivers is a top-down shooter released in 2015, while its sequel, Helldivers 2, is a third-person shooter, which was launched on February 8, 2024. In this video, we will explore the lore and setting of the world of Helldivers, the history, the factions, and the units of both the patriotic Super Earth Federation as well as their supposedly fascistic and socialist enemies. We will start by going over the history of both Helldivers 1 and 2, and then go over each faction alongside their individual units. The history of Helldivers is quite unique in that the result of large-scale player operations directly affects the direction of the galaxy-spanning story. Thus, the story is ongoing as of the publishing of this video. I will give the full history of the universe, which has been determined up to the point of this video's publishing, with the potential for an updated version of the video in the long-term future if the demand for such an update exists. With that out of the way, prepare yourself, fellow patriot, as we dive into the grand universe of Helldivers. In the year 2084, Super Earth found itself in a precarious position, encircled and threatened by three distinct and hostile factions: the insect-like bugs, the mechanically augmented cyborgs, and the enigmatic Illuminates. The bugs, one of the first alien species encountered by Super Earth during its galactic expansion, were declared enemies of the state. The government labeled them a grave existential threat, citing their potential to end humanity as a whole. However, a curious and convenient discovery soon followed the declaration of war. The bodies of the bugs could be broken down into a valuable resource called Element 710. This resource became a significant asset for Super Earth, fueling the war effort and further justifying the continued extermination of the bugs. Despite there being no clear evidence that the bugs ever harbored hostile intentions toward humans, questioning the government's stance on the species was swiftly deemed treasonous. The conflict with the cyborgs began in the aftermath of a devastating attack in which a group of cyborgs detonate a large explosive in District 48, supposedly killing thousands of civilians. Super Earth responded with swift and violent retaliation, branding the perpetrators as terrorists. However, rumors began to circulate that Super Earth had long marginalized cybernetically augmented humans, subjecting them to oppressive policies and discrimination. In time, a movement emerged among the cyborgs, with many seeking independence from Super Earth and the formation of their own government. Therefore, the Federation, unwilling to allow such powerful groups to break away and potentially destabilize its control, deemed the cyborgs a threat to mankind. Despite these rumored peaceful intentions, the cyborgs were branded as enemies of the state and forced into a brutal conflict aimed at quashing their aspirations for autonomy. Meanwhile, the Illuminates, an ancient and enigmatic species, had been observing humanity for centuries. When they finally made contact, they offered peace and the possibility of cooperation. However, Super Earth's intelligence agencies soon uncovered that the Illuminates possessed technology far beyond anything humanity had developed up to that point. The Federation, perceiving this advanced technology as a direct challenge to its authority, declared the Illuminates a threat. Publicly, they were accused of harboring weapons of mass destruction, which were capable of wiping out humanity if left unchecked. But whispers amongst citizenry suggested that the true motivation for the war was far less altruistic, that the Federation's aim was to steal the Illuminate's technology for itself and to use it to cement its dominance in the galaxy. The war, which spanned nearly 4 decades, was long and brutal. Each of the 3 factions, the Bugs, the Cyborgs, and the Illuminates, fought fiercely for their survival and independence. But in the end, Super-Earth emerged victorious, defeating each faction through a combination of military might, strategic alliances, and, in the case of the Illuminate, the theft of their advanced technology. While the Federation claimed the war was a fight for freedom and survival, its true motivations, domination, resource extraction, and technological supremacy, became increasingly apparent to those who lived through it. The Helldivers, the unsung heroes of the conflict, were instrumental in these victories, often deployed in the most dangerous and covert missions, carrying out orders that shaped the future of the galaxy and secured Super-Earth's place at the top. The war's conclusion saw Super-Earth solidify its position as the galaxy's dominant power, securing peace and stability across its territories. In the aftermath, the Helldivers, Super-Earth's elite and feared task force, were dismissed, their mission now complete. With the Bugs and Cyborgs subdued, the remnants of these factions were subjected to harsh fates. The Cyborgs were captured and sent to labor in the mines of their homeworld Cyberstan, stripped of their autonomy and forced to work for their conquerors. The Bugs, whose bodies had proven invaluable for the production of Element 710, were placed in controlled environments, effectively farmed for their resource that had played a significant role in the war. Meanwhile, the Illuminate, once the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, were driven out of known space. Their superior technologies, including the coveted faster-than-light travel, were seized by Super-Earth. This technology unlocked the stars for the Federation, giving Super-Earth the ability to colonize distant planets, ushering in what came to be known as the Great Democratization. For nearly a century, this period of peace and prosperity flourished. The colonies established by Super-Earth spread through the galaxy, and the ideals of freedom and democracy were promoted as the universal truth. It was a golden age, during which the Federation's influence expanded, its economy boomed, and its citizens were led to believe that their way of life was the ultimate expression of humanity's potential. Meanwhile, the Helldivers, once the embodiment of military might and brutality, faded into legend. However, come the year 2224, Super-Earth found itself embroiled in escalating tensions that would lead to a new era of conflict. The immediate catalyst for this renewed conflict was the emergence of the Terminids, descendants of the Bugs. Having broken free from their enclosures, these insect-like creatures began to reproduce unchecked, spreading chaos and devastation across the galaxy. Super-Earth's armed forces struggled to contain the outbreak, facing significant challenges in quarantining the Terminids on their designated farm planets. With military resources stretched thin, the threat they posed was growing increasingly dire. As if that situation wasn't perilous enough, a new enemy arose on a separate front: the Cyborg Automatons. This faction, characterized by their mechanical enhancements, emerged as a formidable adversary, reminiscent of the earlier conflicts with the Cyborgs during the First Galactic War. Their emergence added to the pressures faced by Super-Earth, forcing the Federation into a corner. The combination of the Terminid threat and insurgent automatons necessitated a unified and forceful response. In this dire context, Super-Earth had no choice but to reactivate the Helldivers. Mobilized once again, the Helldivers were tasked with confronting these twin threats head-on. As they prepared for a new wave of operations, the Helldivers embodied the Federation's resolve to eliminate the growing forces of chaos and maintain the fragile peace that had been hard-won over the previous century. The stage was set for an intense and multifaceted conflict, one that would test the limits of Super-Earth's military might and the resilience of its ideals in the face of a rising tyranny. The next section of this video will go over Helldiver 2's major orders. Major orders are overarching objectives that serve as key goals in Helldivers 2. These orders are so large in scope that they require widespread participation from the Helldivers community to achieve progress and completion. In the lower middle portion of the screen, you will be able to see the name of the major order being discussed, and in this corner, you will see the date the major order was active in our timeline. The probability of widespread devastation from the Terminid outbreak, particularly the horrific risk of child eviscerations, was at an all-time high following their initial outbreak. In response, Super-Earth scientists devised a bold solution. Federation's engineers had constructed a network of advanced termicide dispensing towers, collectively known as the Terminid Control System. These colossal structures were designed to act as a planetary defense mechanism, capable of exterminating every Terminid on the barrier planet and inculcating the planets against future infestations. The mission for the Helldivers was therefore to ensure all planets between Super-Earth and the barrier planets, specifically Heath and Nagel's Venture, were liberated from Terminid tyranny in order to pave the way for the construction of the Terminid Control System. Helldivers launched a series of coordinated offensives to cleanse these worlds of the Terminid scourge, clearing out the infestation that had spread unchecked for far too long. Their efforts paid off, as the mission was marked with success. The planets were reclaimed, and the way was cleared for the Terminid control system to be deployed. On the other front, the conflict with the Automatons had escalated dramatically as they executed a series of cowardly surprise attacks on multiple highly populated planets within the Super-Earth Coalition. The initial assaults overwhelmed the Super-Earth Armed Forces, or SEAF, leaving millions of citizens vulnerable to death and disenfranchisement. As civilian populations were targeted, the sanctity of their homes and the very essence of freedom were under siege. Super-Earth leadership vowed that this grievous attack would not go unanswered, and the call to defend their territory rallied both military forces and patriotic citizens alike. Despite the valorous effort of the Helldivers, the tide of the conflict turned tragically against the Super-Earth Coalition, leading to the invasion of automaton marauders into Super-Earth territory. As the automaton invasion progressed, the Helldivers had to set their attention towards liberation of the planet Veld, where the Terminid infestation threatened to escalate if not addressed promptly. With the deployment of specialized tactics, including the use of napalm strikes, the Helldivers initiated an aggressive offensive to eradicate the Terminids and secure the safety of the colonists. The operation concluded successfully, marking a significant victory for the Helldivers and the Super-Earth Armed Forces. SEAF containment teams were swiftly mobilized to oversee the cleanup and inculcation operations. Despite the victory on Veld, Heath and Angel's Venture's Terminid plight was far from over. Swarms of Terminid spores overwhelmed the colonial militias stationed there, causing another outbreak. The relentless expansion of the Terminid hive seemed almost intent on dishonoring the sacrifice of the Helldivers who had previously liberated these worlds, many of whom had paid with their lives in the fight for freedom. Thus, the Helldivers returned to the battlefields they had previously won, intent with the Terminid swarm's eradication and recontrol of Heath and Angel's Venture. Against overwhelming odds, their efforts culminated in success. Heath and Angel's Venture were brought back under Super-Earth control, preserving the legacy of those who had fought and died previously for these worlds. Meanwhile, Tianquan housed the sole arsenal of new exosuit technology critical to the Super-Earth Coalition's military effort. With intelligence suggesting that the automatons were rapidly closing in on the production facilities, there was a pressing need to secure this vital resource before it fell into enemy hands. Losing Tianquan would not only jeopardize access to advanced combat capabilities, but also empower the automatons with technology that could turn the tide of the ongoing conflict. As the Helldivers mobilized for the operation, they encountered an unexpected challenge. Intercepted communications revealed an automaton plan for a significant counterattack, indicating increased resistance as the operation continued. Nevertheless, the Helldivers pressed on, demonstrating their resolve and tactical prowess in the face of mounting opposition. Their efforts culminated in a successful liberation of Tianquan, restoring it to the care of managed democracy. The Morganson arsenal, along with its stockpile of freshly produced exosuits, was recovered fully intact. With Tianquan liberated, the Helldivers embarked on a series of high-stakes operations across the barrier planets, Errata Prime, Fenrir 3, Meridia, and Turing, in order to activate the Terminid control system. Fenrir 3 was secured first, and the Terminid control system was fully activated, bringing hope to the beleaguered citizens. Turing followed suit, as the Terminid control system was brought online there as well. Meridia and Errata Prime were subsequently liberated as well, and the Terminid extermination systems were activated across the worlds. Heath, a planet that had long been a battleground in the Terminid War, also stood firm, holding back the relentless wave of insectoid invaders through countless sacrifices by the Helldivers. Finally, the Terminid control system was successfully operational across all the barrier planets. The Termicide worked as intended, rapidly culling millions of Terminids from the affected areas, securing a future free from their relentless assault. With the Terminid control system activated, Super-Earth citizens could finally rest easy, knowing their homes and children were safe from the devastating threat of being consumed by the fascist insects that had once terrorized the galaxy. Following activation of the Terminid control system, Super-Earth's efforts shifted towards expansion of its civilian population, and in order to meet the growing energy demand for faster-than-light travel, the Helldivers were dispatched on a crucial mission to cull the burgeoning Terminid swarm within the quarantine zone. This operation focused on the liberation of Zagon Prime and Fori Prime, in order to harness the valuable resource, Element 710. However, the mission encountered unforeseen challenges that would ultimately lead to its failure. Shortly before the operation commenced, intelligence reports revealed the emergence of a new strain of flying Terminids, which appeared without any prior warning. Despite the culling of numerous Terminids, the Helldivers were unable to penetrate deeply enough into the quarantine zone to fulfill their objectives. As a result, the anticipated expansion into new planets was curtailed, and the expected yield of Element 710 was significantly reduced. The Federation's ambitions for further colonization were thus set back, and procreation applications, vital for the future of Super-Earth, were put on hold pending a reassessment of the situation. Following this reassessment, a new crucial phase of operations concerning the Terminid threat began, as civilian biomass collection teams were deployed to gather and process inert Terminids. The Helldivers were tasked with ensuring that designated planets remained under Super-Earth control until these vital operations were complete. The specific planets, Fori Prime, Istanu, Crimsica, and Hellmire, were essential for the ongoing efforts to stabilize the region and secure resources for the Federation's expansion. As the Helldivers undertook their mission, they faced significant challenges. Reports from the Ministry of Science indicated an unexpected surge in Terminid spore counts, leading to a dramatic increase in resistance on the affected planets. Additionally, a recent cybersecurity breach had compromised critical information within the Galactic War tables, critically damaging wartime operations. This breach was swiftly addressed, with responsible parties apprehended and dealt with severely. Despite these setbacks, the Helldivers persevered, maintaining control over the designated planets. Ultimately, the operation concluded with success. The last of the crude solid Element 710 was collected, processed, and shipped off planet, providing a substantial boost to Super-Earth's colony settlement efforts. With their collection complete, the planets could now be vacated, allowing the Terminids to repopulate under careful supervision. On the second front, interrogators successfully extracted alarming information from captured automatons using unpleasant sensory experience simulations. This intelligence revealed plans for an operation known as the Reclamation, which hinted at a massive automaton invasion of unprecedented scale. With the details still murky, High Command swiftly authorized Operation Swift Disassembly, aimed at the total eradication of the automaton threat. The operation was to unfold in several critical phases, beginning with the disruption of enemy communications by capturing a long-range communications array located deep within automaton territory on the planet Troost. The Ministry of Defense responded by fast-tracking new support weapons to bolster their efforts, including the powerful LAS-99 Quasar Cannon and the MG-101 heavy machine gun, which were made available for immediate requisition. The mission culminated in Helldiver victory, as the automaton communications array on Troost was swiftly decommissioned. While analysts began sifting through the data, much had already been erased, but a crucial finding was made: a transmission containing blueprints for a new type of automaton, aerial gunships. This advanced warning allowed Super-Earth to preemptively construct its factories to accelerate the production of effective anti-air weaponry, preparing for the impending challenges that lay ahead. Super-Earth intelligence then identified Tibet as the primary planet responsible for producing automaton combatants. The liberation of Tibet was deemed essential not only to disrupt the enemy's abilities to replenish its ranks, but also to prevent the further exploitation of Tibet's natural resources, which were being siphoned by the automatons. Thus, liberation of Tibet would significantly hamper the enemy's war machine while preserving vital resources for future generations of Super-Earth citizens. However, the mission to liberate Tibet was met with fierce resistance. As the Helldivers advanced, intercepted communications revealed that the automatons had prepared in advance for a significant counterattack. Despite the best efforts of Super-Earth forces, the automatons managed to retain control over Tibet. Worse still, reports indicated that the enemy had already begun ramping up production on other worlds to compensate for the losses. The automatons' counteroffensive was likely imminent, and Super-Earth would have to adjust its plans accordingly to face an even greater challenge in the coming months. As key military objectives were being targeted, Malevolent Creek had fallen to the enemy in a devastating assault that saw millions of brave Super-Earth soldiers perish in defense of its rich resources. The automatons had since begun an occupation of the planet, mining its valuable rhodium deposits and desecrating the memory of its fallen heroes. In response, Super-Earth mobilized its forces for a critical mission: liberate Malevolent Creek and end the automatons' illegal occupation. This mission was not only about reclaiming resources, but also about avenging the fallen and restoring dignity to the heroes who had perished. and Super-Earth forces were indeed successful in their liberation of Malevolent Creek. Colonists who had once been driven from their homes now returned to the ruins, hopeful for a prosperous future. With the dawn of a new day, the planet was free, and the fallen could finally rest in peace, knowing justice had been served. This victory was celebrated not only as a military achievement, but as a profound moment of collective memory and reverence for the fallen heroes who sacrificed much in the defense and liberation of this great planet. Thus, April 3rd was officially decreed as Malevolent Creek Memorial Day. This victory would provide the morale necessary for the Helldivers to continue the offensive against the Automatons, as well as motivation for vengeance from the Automatons. Therefore, the Automatons amassed their remaining resources for a large-scale counterattack aimed at retaking critical planets and stalling the progress of the Helldivers. If successful, this reinvasion could jeopardize Super-Earth's ability to eliminate the bots before their next phase of reinforcements arrived, potentially setting back the timeline for their destruction. However, the Helldivers held their ground, successfully repelling the Automaton counteroffensive. The key planets of the counterattack remained firmly under Super-Earth's control, with their resources drained and their offensive thwarted. The Automatons were forced to retreat, unable to sustain their large-scale assault. The final assault against the Automatons would mark the culmination of a long and brutal conflict for Super-Earth. Helldivers were mobilized for an all-out assault, with the mission to eradicate every automaton-held world. The battle began with the liberation of Tibet, where critical factories were destroyed, crippling the enemy's ability to produce new combatants. This victory forced the enemy to stretch their remaining forces thinner, further hastening their defeat. With each planet liberated, Durgan and Maya among them, the automatons were driven back further. In the end, the automaton threat was fully eradicated, and with it, the looming specter of the Reclamation was extinguished. The galaxy was once again free from mechanical tyranny. With Super-Earth's citizens safe and the fallen avenged, the war against the automatons was decisively won. While SEAF teams continued to comb through the remnants of automaton facilities, ensuring no further threats lingered, the bots were gone, and the reign of managed democracy had been preserved. Following the successful eradication of the automatons and the containment of the Terminid infestation, Super-Earth found itself at a pivotal moment in its history. The brutal wars and the hardships that followed had taken a toll on its citizens, but with the major threats neutralized, the Federation could now focus on building a brighter and more prosperous future. The next step in this vision was the construction of E-710 farms, a critical development designed to further secure humanity's economic and environmental future. The plan was straightforward but ambitious. Establish E-710 farms where Terminids would be raised in controlled, spacious enclosures, enhanced with the latest nutritional supplements and overseen by strict supervision. These farms would not only provide a reliable source of element 710, but also usher in a new era of resource management, safety, and economic stability. The Helldivers were tasked with clearing the way for the construction of these vital facilities by liberating the planets of Hellmire, Istanu, and Crimsica. Thanks to the efforts of the Helldivers, the operation was a resounding success, and construction began on the first of many Terminid enrichment and extraction centers. These new facilities would incorporate cutting-edge security measures, refined E-710 extraction processes, and accelerating growth additives to optimize Terminid farming. With the successful clearance of these planets, the typical 180-day procreation review process was reinstated, marking the beginning of a new era for Super-Earth. However, victory and celebration were short-lived for the Helldivers and Super-Earth because, in an unprecedented and catastrophic turn of events, the Automaton Legion launched a full-scale invasion of Super-Earth territories, revealing the true extent of their military might. This attack, which came to be known as the Reclamation, unfolded with terrifying speed and precision. Unlike the smaller skirmish-like incursions that had plagued the Federation in the past, this invasion fleet dwarfed the previous automaton forces. Tens of thousands of warships descended upon the Valdis sector, and in mere hours, nearly every planet in the sector had fallen to the relentless onslaught. The speed of the attack was compounded by a crippling delay in communications which had been compromised by a series of targeted strikes on planetary networks. The Federation's ability to organize an effective defense was severely hampered, and despite the quick mobilization of SEAF reserves, it became clear that the full extent of the automaton threat had been vastly underestimated. Helldivers were immediately deployed to slow the advance. However, despite their valiant efforts, the Helldivers were unable to halt the momentum of the automaton war machine. The invasion fleet was overwhelming, and the Reclamation moved forward with a brutal efficiency, Planet after planet fell under automaton control, with the once beautiful worlds of the Valdis sector becoming nothing more than battlefields and graveyards. Despite the heroic defense mounted by the Helldivers, the odds were insurmountable. Colonists were either driven from their homes or slaughtered, their votes and voices silenced forever. In a final, desperate effort to bolster the Federation's defenses, Super Destroyer fleets were upgraded with Level 4 modules, a cutting-edge technology developed by Super Earth's top defense contractors. These upgrades were expected to significantly enhance the firepower and resilience of the Federation's fleet. But even with these enhancements, the automaton onslaught was too great. The reclamation had begun in full force, and the Federation was reeling from the devastation. The true nature of the automaton's intentions remained unclear, but one thing was certain: the battle for the galaxy was far from over, and the automatons had brought with them a threat unlike any Super Earth had faced before. In the wake of this devastating invasion, Super Earth's defense efforts reached a critical juncture. The Helldivers were tasked with a pivotal mission: to halt the automaton advance and establish a stronghold that could serve as a launching point for a counteroffensive. The order was clear: hold the Menkent line, a strategic line of defense encompassing the planets of Menkent and Lesseth. The goal was not just to defend the worlds, but to create a foundation for orbital defenses that could be critical in stemming the tide of the invasion and giving SEAF engineers the time they needed to fortify the sector. The operation was a hard-fought success. The Helldivers fought tooth and nail, successfully establishing the defensive line that would serve as a barrier against the automaton fleet. These installations were quickly augmented by SEAF and civilian laborers working tirelessly to bolster their capabilities. Additionally, the SEAF Forward Command Base at Vernon Wells was activated, ensuring a steady flow of recruits and supplies to reinforce the front lines. In response, the automaton fleet sought to punch through the established Menkent line, targeting a single planet, Marfark, in a desperate bid to break Super Earth's defenses. As predicted by Super Earth intelligence, the enemy deployed their formidable Factory Strider, a massive and heavily armored automaton unit designed to serve as both a walking war machine and a mobile fabricator. These units, previously seen only in limited numbers as prototypes, now arrived in full force, adding an alarming new threat to an already desperate situation. Despite the enemy's superior numbers and new weaponry, Marfark was held. The Helldivers managed to hold the line against the automaton fleet, and the Factory Striders were neutralized through a combination of precise coordination and relentless aggression. In the wake of the defensive successes of the Helldivers, a temporary reprieve allowed Super Earth's forces to regroup and refuel their war effort. The most urgent need was to replenish E-710 reserves, and the numerical estimates for the task were daunting. 2 billion Terminids had to be killed and processed for their valuable biomass. This critical mission to gather resources would provide the necessary fuel to sustain the counter-offensive against the automaton threat. In typical fashion, the Helldivers rose to the challenge, not only meeting the target, but exceeding the expectations. As a result, millions of tons of Terminid biomass were safely processed, with E-710 now flowing through the refinement pipelines. This surplus of fuel would enable the transport of weapons, supplies, and reinforcements to the front lines, ensuring that Super Earth had the logistical means to mount an effective counteroffensive. This reprieve did not last long, however, as both the Terminids and the automatons launched large-scale coordinated assaults on the Federation. With little time to react, the Helldivers were tasked with defending the Federation on 2 fronts. While ground was lost in some sectors, their fierce and disciplined resistance ultimately broke the back of the joint assault. The combined might of the Terminids and automatons was no match for the sheer determination and tactical brilliance of the Helldivers. The defense of at least 10 critical planets was secured, and while the enemy forces were exhausted, the light of liberty burned brighter than ever over the worlds of the Federation. And though the war was far from over, it was clear that the spirit of freedom could not be extinguished. Following the defense on 2 fronts, Super Earth intelligence identified 2 key locations where brave citizens were still holding out, trapped in the midst of automaton-controlled worlds. On Chuhei, dedicated citizens were testing a new fortification, while on Penta, others were synthesizing caustic chemicals for a new support weapon. Both had unwavering loyalty to the Federation's cause, but only one planet could be reached in time. After careful deliberation, the decision was made to liberate Penta, where the RL-77 airburst rocket launcher was deployed to assist in the liberation. The mission succeeded in securing 90% of Penta's chemical factories, allowing for the widespread distribution of the newly developed airburst rocket launchers. Sadly, while most of the chemical technicians were rescued, many perished from toxic fumes before help could arrive. Meanwhile, Chuhei was lost. The Helldivers fought valiantly to free the explosive technicians and prevent the loss of the critical anti-tank mines, but the Automatons, ever calculating and cruel, thwarted these efforts. The technicians, whose knowledge was essential for the production of the mines, were slain by the Automatons' merciless blades. This loss was far from the worst thing Super Earth would encounter in the immediate future, following the defense on two fronts. In a shocking turn of events, the Terminid control system failed in a way no one anticipated. What was once thought to be the ultimate solution to the Terminid infestation had caused a catastrophic situation. The termicide that had once been so effective against the Terminid swarms began to exhibit strange, unforeseen consequences. On Meridia, the exposure of termicide triggered a hyper-reproductive adaptation in the Terminids. Rather than killing the survivors, as anticipated, the termicide caused a dramatic increase in reproduction rates, with the population growing exponentially within a matter of days. This phenomenon was later identified by the Ministry of Science as a hormesis response, a biological process where low non-lethal doses of a harmful substance can induce beneficial effects, such as enhanced resilience. This response, while minimal on most barrier planets, was profoundly amplified on Meridia, leading to the planet's transformation in what would later be called a supercolony. With reproduction rates now akin to those of the Terminid homeworld, Meridia became a beacon for the spread of the Terminid threat. Conventional Helldiver operations were deemed ineffective in such a vast and rapidly evolving infestation. The first priority of the war effort became the deactivation of the Terminid control system on the remaining barrier planets in order to prevent further termicide exposure and the potential for similar adaptations to occur. The Helldivers, acting swiftly and with discipline, carried out this order, effectively halting the further spread of the hormonally enhanced Terminid resistance. With the termicide control system now inoperable and Meridia lost, the Terminid threat was more complex than ever before. The Ministry of Science began developing a new strategy, but in the meantime, the Terminid supercolony posed a far greater threat to the galaxy than anyone could have anticipated. In the aftermath of these events, the actions of the scientists responsible for the creation of the termicide were placed under investigation. Unlike other infested planets, the Meridian supercolony began producing spores at an exponentially higher rate, leading to sudden and unpredictable outbreaks on nearby worlds. Within weeks, the colonies of Heath, Angel's Venture, Veld, and Akamar 4 were all affected, and containment efforts were launched in a desperate bid to prevent further spread. Despite the best efforts of the Helldivers, the situation quickly spiraled beyond control. The supercolony had become too thoroughly infested for any conventional military action to have a meaningful effect. The Helldivers' attempts to liberate the planets failed, and the rapidly expanding infestation left entire populations in panic. Evacuation orders were issued, but the sudden nature of the outbreaks meant that many citizens fled with little more than their families and the clothes on their back. The Terminid scourge continued its spread, claiming more systems as the Ministry of Science struggled to identify viable countermeasures. On Super Earth's other front, in the wake of the tragic loss of both the MD-17 anti-tank mines and the countless civilians to the relentless automatons on the war-torn planet of Chuhei, production efforts were swiftly redirected to reclaim the resources necessary for survival and resistance. Plans were swiftly drawn to decommission the automatons in large numbers, hoping to recapture the precious metals and materials they had stolen and reforge them into the vital weaponry needed to turn the tide. As the battle raged on, however, it became clear that even with the best efforts of the Helldivers, the decommissioning of the requisite 2 billion automatons would fall short. The result was a devastating blow to morale. Industrious laborers, eager to contribute to the war effort, found themselves without the materials necessary to forge new weapons. As a result, construction of the MD-17 anti-tank mines was once again delayed, and the Helldivers' arsenal remained incomplete. Liberty now found itself under unprecedented threat, with the forces of tyranny encroaching at every frontier. In response, the government of Super Earth made a monumental decision. What had begun as targeted military operations was now officially declared the Galactic War on Tyranny. A full-scale mobilization of the Federation's military and industrial sectors were launched, and billions of citizens, driven by patriotism and fear, eagerly volunteered for conscription. The construction of massive new training facilities was swiftly authorized across a select number of lightly populated planets. These facilities were designed to process tens of millions of conscripts, putting them through the grueling 72-hour SEAF basic training course that would prepare them for the horrors of war. The Helldivers were tasked with an essential mission to secure and hold these planets long enough for the construction of the SEAF training facilities to be completed. The fate of the new recruits, and by extension the war effort, depended on the Helldivers' success. Planets like Acer Pass, Vernon Wells, Heath, and Angel's Venture were chosen. The Helldivers were forced to fend off relentless attacks from the enemy, ensuring that the planets remained under Super Earth's control. As the battle raged on, their efforts proved triumphant. The facilities were completed, and the first class of recruits was successfully trained. With their newly acquired skills in rifle operation, mobility, and obedience, these new soldiers were now ready to take the fight to the enemies of liberty. With patriotic fervor running high, citizens from all walks of life had volunteered for frontline duty or filled critical roles on the munitions lines, keeping the war machine in motion. The government, eager to reward this dedication and fortify the resolve of its people, ordered a monumental task for the Helldivers: to slay or dismantle an unprecedented number of enemies. 3,141,592,653 foes in total. The sheer scale of this directive was a clear signal to all that the might of Super Earth would not falter, and that the enemies of liberty would be ground into the dust beneath the collective boot of a united citizenry. Terminids, automatons, or any other foe standing in the way of freedom would be eradicated. The Helldivers, true to their reputation, launched an aggressive offensive, decimating vast swaths of enemy forces. The numbers were staggering. A sea of Terminids and automatons fell before the relentless barrage of firepower and tactical superiority the Helldivers are known for. Yet, despite the immense carnage wrought upon the enemies of liberty, the anticipated result, an overwhelming surge in patriotism and morale, failed to materialize. The citizens of Super Earth, already deeply committed to the war effort, were unmoved by the scale of the slaughter. Their loyalty and resolve had already reached unprecedented levels, and their expectations of the Helldivers' prowess were so high that even a victory on such a monumental scale was seen as simply another day at the office in the fight for freedom. The intended goal of stoking great enthusiasm for the war was not achieved, though this in itself spoke volumes about the unwavering faith of the Federation's citizens. As Helldivers slaughtered enemy forces on an unprecedented scale, surveillance satellite security uncovered the automaton petafactory on Virilia 5, a massive crude industrial facility, which was a clear and blatant imitation of the famed Morganson arsenal on Tien Quan. Unlike its predecessor, which stood as a symbol of advanced, efficient craftsmanship, the petafactory was a chaotic and soulless mass production engine, churning out weapons of war under the oppressive supervision of robotic worker drones. These drones, forcibly enslaved to an endless cycle of labor, were a testament to the automaton's totalitarian ambitions. The environmental degradation caused by the factory's operations was equally appalling, with vast expanses of the planet laid waste to fuel the war machine. Yet, within this abominable structure lay the potential for something far greater. By seizing control, the Helldivers could transform the petafactory into a facility capable of producing the highly coveted Exo-49 Emancipator exosuit. As the Helldivers launched their offensive on Virilia 5, reports indicated that the automaton resistance was intensifying in a last-ditch effort to prevent their inevitable defeat. The Helldivers, undeterred, pressed forward, knowing the importance of securing the planet before the petafactory could become too entrenched in its despotism. Meanwhile, a growing Terminid threat on Angel's Venture had demanded immediate attention. Yet, even as the Helldivers fought to defend that crucial front, they remained resolute in their mission to liberate Virilia 5. The battlefield was brutal, but the Helldivers' resolve was unshakable. With their unwavering efforts, the petafactory was liberated. The victory on Virilia 5 was a monumental achievement. With the factory now under the control of human engineers, retrofitting began in earnest. These new exosuits, armed with twin autocannons, would serve as a potent symbol of quality craftsmanship and a force multiplier for Super Earth's military. Meanwhile, the growing threat of the Terminid supercolony on Meridia had reached a critical point. Spore production from the colony had surged to catastrophic levels, pushing the Federation to the brink of collapse as nearby planets faced imminent infestation. It was clear that only a decisive strike could end the menace once and for all. Super-Earth's top scientific minds had been assembled on Moridesh, working tirelessly to weaponize dark fluid, a highly classified substance liberated from the Illuminate after the First Galactic War. This exotic matter, once thought to be beyond human understanding, had been synthesized and repurposed by Federation scientists into a weapon of unparalleled potential. The plan was simple but daring. Forge a path to Meridia, secure vital staging grounds, and then deploy weaponized dark fluid to annihilate the Terminid supercolony, once and for all. The destruction of an entire planet was an irreversible act, and all Super-Earth citizens understood the gravity of this choice. But the Terminids had left no other option. The first phase of the mission called for the Helldivers to establish a secure route to Meridia, which would involve holding key planets until the necessary quantities of dark fluid could be weaponized and deployed. In the midst of relentless enemy pressure, the Helldivers held firm, defending strategic locations with exceptional tenacity. The Terminid threat remained severe, with infestation spreading rapidly, and the Automatons continued their unjust invasion of Federation territory. Despite the urgent situations at hand, including the Terminid attack on Heath and the rising threat on Meridia itself, the Helldivers' relentless defense allowed Super-Earth to maintain a foothold long enough for the deployment of the weaponized payloads of dark fluid. With these payloads now operational, they were deployed across the Super Destroyer fleet, making the strike on the Terminid supercolony inevitable. The path to Meridia was now clear, and with the weaponization of dark fluid complete, Liberty's greatest weapon was in place. The Terminid supercolony on Meridia was about to face its end. Phase 2 of the operation began shortly afterwards. Phase 2 required Helldivers to deploy the payloads and ensure that the critical mass of dark fluid, enough to implode the planet, was reached before the Moridesh research facility exhausted its ability to manufacture the substance. The Helldivers, bolstered by patriotically inspired citizens who had supported the effort with homemade napalm to augment their loadouts, plunged into the fray. The first signs of success came quickly. Scientists from Moridesh noted a decrease in Terminid activity on the supercolony, indicating that the dark fluid had begun to take effect. Microbubbles were forming beneath the planet's crust, destabilizing the surface and disrupting Terminid hives. The planetary tectonic integrity was crumbling, and with it the foundation of the supercolony itself. The final stages of the operation were harrowing, as the Helldivers raced to ensure the last payloads of dark fluid were deployed before the planet's collapsing infrastructure could implode. And the eruption of dark fluid's full force triggered the anticipated effect. Meridia was consumed, its entire mass collapsing inward to form a black hole. The Terminid supercolony was no more. A massive gravitational pull now emanated from the heart of the collapsing planet, drawing in every Terminid spore within several billion kilometers. Interstellar spore levels across nearby systems plummeted, signaling the success of the mission. Though the Terminids still plagued the galaxy, their ability to spread with the devastating acceleration provided by their supercolony had been curtailed. Containment was once again possible. The Moridesh research facility was decommissioned, its dark fluid stores fully depleted after the completion of the Moridesh project. The tireless scientists who had made the breakthrough that saved the galaxy were awarded the Super Citizenship Medal of Freedom. Though the war was far from over, with the Terminids continuing to ravage distant worlds and the Automatons still a looming threat, the victory marked a turning point in this conflict. The Helldivers had won a historic battle for liberty, an unprecedented act of destruction that had secured a future for all free people. With the Terminid supercolony on Meridia destroyed, the focus of the Federation war effort shifted to clearing the infestation and giving the citizens of Super-Earth the opportunity to rebuild their lives on the worlds that had once been stolen from them. Though the Terminid control system was no longer operational and the threat remained significant, the recent mobilization of SEAF recruits provided a much-needed boost in manpower, allowing for a more conventional ground-based response to the infestation. Super-Earth's most brilliant chemists were also working around the clock on the creation of Termicide 2.0, an even more advanced and efficient version of the chemical weapon that had proven effective in combating the Terminid scourge. The Helldivers were deployed to a number of key planets including Arata Prime, Turing, Akamar 4, and Fact Bay, all of which had fallen victim to the Terminid plague. As the Helldivers fought to liberate these worlds, reports came in of escalating automaton activity, with the planet Acer Pass falling to their forces and the newly constructed SEAF training facility on the planet being destroyed. This setback weakened SEAF's ability to replenish its forces and maintain the momentum needed for planetary liberation. But the Helldivers pressed on undeterred. They successfully cleared the Terminid infestation on the targeted planets, reversing much of the devastation wrought by the supercolony. With the Terminid scourge cleared from several key worlds, resettlement efforts could finally begin, allowing citizens to return to the homes they had once been forced to abandon. While the galaxy had been distracted by the overwhelming Terminid threat, the Automaton had continued their ruthless expansion, conquering world after world and seizing control of vast quantities of resources. Critical gaps remained in Federation intelligence as well, particularly concerning the origins of the invasion fleet and the inexplicable focus of Automaton information sources on the planet Cyberstan. It was a mystery that demanded answers. To unlock these secrets, analysts identified a high-value target deep within Automaton territory, a massive data center, codenamed Database 1, that contained encrypted intelligence crucial to understanding the Automaton's plans. The center was highly fortified, surrounded by layers of protection designed to keep its secrets hidden. The Helldivers were ordered to liberate the planet Wasat, capture Database 1, and allow cyber warfare specialists to extract the intelligence stored there. A swift and direct assault was necessary, and High Command provided the route to Wasat through the neighboring system of Wezen and Vega Bay, streamlining the Helldivers' approach to the heart of enemy territory. Despite heavy Automaton resistance, the Helldivers pressed forward, cutting through the enemy's defenses and securing control of the target planet. With Database 1 finally in their hands, cyber warfare specialists wasted no time in breaching the robust encryption. What they uncovered was a treasure trove of data, much of which would take months to fully decode. However, early analysis revealed a critical piece of information. The Automatons were planning a massive terraforming project on Cyberstan. The decoded data also revealed other cryptic references to keywords like Vessel 00, Nucleus, and the Final Collective, none of which were fully understood yet, but each hinted at a larger and more ominous objective. With the initial intel in hand, it became clear that the next strategic target in the war against the Automatons would be Cyberstan. The Federation now had a foothold in enemy territory, and with more intelligence to be uncovered from Database 1, the Helldivers were poised to dismantle the Automaton threat, piece by piece. The Automaton occupation of vital Federation territories, however, continued to wreak havoc, and in response to urgent requests for aid reached High Command. The first came from Vernon Wells, where a distress call described thousands of civilian survivors trapped in the collapsed remains of Super Citizen Ann's Hospital for Very Sick Children. With food and water supplies running dangerously low, the survival of so many civilians, especially the 4,311 critically ill children, would be nothing short of miraculous. Meanwhile, on Marfark, intercepted Automaton communications had pinpointed a critical explosives repository containing materials stolen during the initial invasion of Chuhey. These explosives were essential for the creation of MD-17 anti-tank mines, which were badly needed in the ongoing war effort. However, time was short. Only one of these two critical missions could be completed in time to ensure success. The Helldivers were entrusted with the task of deciding which mission to prioritize: the rescue of innocent civilians or the recovery of critical materials. In the end, the Helldivers chose to prioritize the rescue of the trapped civilians on Vernon Wells. The decision was made with the understanding that while the materials on Marfark were crucial for the war, saving lives, especially those of the Federation's most vulnerable citizens, was an imperative that could not be ignored. Upon the arrival on Vernon Wells, the Helldivers were able to clear the debris and secure the safety of the hospital's civilian occupants. Against all odds, the majority of the trapped civilians, including all of the children, were found alive. Rescue operations were swiftly initiated, and the children were evacuated to safety, with many en route to Super Citizen Mary's Hospital for Tragically Ill Youths, where they could receive the best medical care available. The children, deeply moved by the heroic actions of the Helldivers, made an inspiring gesture of gratitude. All 4,311 signed MOD Form 11 intent to enlist forms, vowing to join the ranks of SEAF once they were of age, carrying forward the spirit of valor and sacrifice that had saved their lives. While the Automaton forces had successfully moved the critical materials and shuttered the MD-17 anti-tank mine factories, the Federation could take pride in knowing that the lives of many innocent citizens had been spared. Following the heroic success of the Helldivers on Vernon Wells, High Command issued a strategic directive to deploy Helldivers to purge the Terminid swarms from the Mirren and Draco sectors. These regions were deemed crucial to Super Earth's future, both for military security and as potential zones for citizen resettlement. The newly developed Hivebreaker drill, a repurposed version of the tectonic drill previously used in the Super Colony operation, was now Super Earth's best tool for the task. With the ability to target Terminid nurseries deep beneath the surface, the Helldivers would deploy nuclear devices to eradicate millions of larvae before they could mature into the devastating creatures that had already ravaged many worlds. In the designated battle zones, Hellmire, Nivel 43, Istanu, Crimsica, and Fori Prime, Helldivers began making quick work of the colonies. Equipped with the newly authorized FLAM-40 flamethrower, the Helldivers advanced through the infested regions with overwhelming firepower, clearing out subterranean Terminid nurseries and rendering the planet's surface and air safe for future settlement. The Hivebreaker drill proved to be a resounding success. Despite an initial surge in interstellar spore emissions, likely a last-ditch survival adaptation by the Terminids, Helldivers maintained unyielding pressure. The offensive did not falter, and the operation succeeded in eradicating the heart of the infestation. The planets were then reclaimed by Super-Earth citizens, contributing to the long-term prosperity and expansion of the Federation. As Terminid outbreaks were neutralized, renewed incursions by the Automatons into the Tsar sector began. These incursions threatened not only the integrity of the sector, but the sacred memorial of Malevolent Creek. Super-Earth forces, bolstered by the temporary authorization of the ACA autocannon, mobilized quickly to repel the enemy. The battle that followed saw the Automatons' advance halted across key planetary positions, ensuring that these worlds remained securely under Super-Earth control as the operation drew to a close. The Automatons, whose once dominant factories had lain dormant for years, were denied the opportunity to revive their operations, securing both a tactical and symbolic victory. The heroes who had fallen at Malevolent Creek were honored with the peace of knowing their sacrifices were not in vain. For now, the Automatons would not advance further into the region. Victory was short-lived though, as the relentless expansion of the Terminids, driven by their insatiable hunger for new worlds, continued to threaten Super-Earth's ambition in the Falstaff and Jinji sector. Following the successful expulsion of the insectoid menace from the Mirren and Draco sectors, the Terminids had rapidly spread to these new regions, areas long marked by the Ministry of Expansion for colonization and democratic settlement. Considering unprovoked infestations came on the heels of recent devastating hive annihilation actions, some analysts speculated a potential connection between the two events. The prevailing theory was that the Terminids' new behavior stemmed from a random mutation, further complicating efforts to predict and control their spread. In response, Super-Earth forces, supported by the elite Helldivers, launched a critical counteroffensive to prevent the Terminids from gaining a foothold on the pristine worlds of Ursan Sands, Boar Rock, Pandian 24, Fact Bay, and Akamar 4. Despite outbreaks occurring in the Jinji sector, linked to large-scale spore dispersals from adjacent worlds, swift action by the Helldivers contained the threat before it could spread uncontrollably. The campaign, though taxing, was ultimately a success. While some worlds in the Jinji and Falstaff sectors now bear the scars of Terminid infestation, many of the designated colonization planets remained largely untouched, preserving their potential for future settlement. Despite the Federation's recent victories, all was not well in the Ymir sector. In this sector, the planet X-45, once the site of an advanced weapons lab from the First Galactic War, held the blueprints for an interplanetary battle station that could tip the balance of power in the galaxy. After years of being abandoned due to lethal radiation levels, the planet had recently become safe for excavation, and the plans for the powerful weapon were in the process of being unearthed. However, the Automatons had caught wind of the lab's significance, likely through malicious cyber attacks designed to disrupt Super-Earth's efforts. They seized the opportunity, launching a concerted push to break through the Ymir sector's defenses and rout the forces stationed at Acer Pass. Despite the best efforts of Seif, the Automatons succeeded in capturing Acer Pass, reducing the chances of linking up with the cut-off forces in the sector. With the situation growing dire, the Helldivers were ordered to hold X-45 at all costs, ensuring that the plans for the battle station could be recovered. The defense of the planet became a desperate struggle, with each moment spent delaying the Automatons vital to the success of the mission. In a fortunate turn, excavation efforts unearthed a cache of MLS-4X commando rocket launchers, a relic of the First Galactic War, which were immediately pressed into service to bolster the planet's defense. The Helldivers fought with tenacity, enduring waves of attacks, and ultimately, they succeeded in securing the battle station plans before the Automatons could overrun the planet. Though the fate of X-45 was not ideal, with the planet left in ruins and its advanced weapons lab destroyed, the critical research had been preserved. The plans for the interplanetary battle station were in hand, setting the stage for future construction of a weapon of unprecedented power. Additionally, the MLS-4X commando rocket launcher, once thought lost to history, had been successfully shipped off-planet, enabling rapid production of the weapon for Super-Earth's fleet. For Super Earth's next daring and controversial initiative, the Ministry of Science launched the Terminid Research Initiative, aimed at better understanding the evolutionary patterns of the Terminids, and, in turn, predicting potential outcomes for future human-Terminid interactions. The project hinged on a seemingly paradoxical strategy, applying controlled duress to the Terminids in order to accelerate their evolution and observe the resulting behaviors. The Helldivers were tasked with executing this initiative by eradicating 100 million Terminids, ideally through a variety of lethal methods, to provide the necessary data for the Ministry's research. Though the directive raised ethical concerns among some, the overarching goal was clear to all: to advance scientific knowledge and ultimately guide humanity toward more democratic outcomes, not only for itself but potentially for the Terminids as well. This massive culling provided the Ministry with invaluable data, significantly advancing the Terminid Research Initiative. Through the research, several key findings emerged. Perhaps the most noteworthy was the discovery that Terminids, when subjected to extreme duress, produced higher quality E710. This insight promised to reshape future E710 acquisition strategies, ensuring Super Earth's continued dominance in space exploration and travel. Additionally, the Helldivers' efforts uncovered a new, albeit non-threatening behavior among the Terminids: the construction of large, spore-producing towers, roughly the size of small skyscrapers. While these towers pose no immediate danger, they would be closely monitored as part of ongoing Terminid research. Returning to the automaton front of the war, following the aftermath of the hard-fought defense of X-45, Super Earth forces in the Ymir sector remained isolated, cut off from vital reinforcements and support. However, a strategic opportunity presented itself. Despite the automatons' extended control over vast swaths of the galaxy, their overreach had left them vulnerable to a well-timed strike. The decision was made to push through the Andromeda sector, severing the automaton forces into two halves. The bold maneuver would disrupt their communication and supply lines. The Helldivers were tasked with this critical operation, which involved liberating the designated planets: Matar Bay, Martail, Marfark, and Acer Pass, thus cutting a clear path through the automaton-held territory. As the Helldivers pressed their attack, reports came in indicating a marked decrease in automaton resistance. The usually methodical and unyielding enemy appeared to have miscalculated, perhaps overconfident in their inevitable triumph over the banner of managed democracy. The Helldivers seized on this opportunity, delivering a lethal strike to automaton forces. In a swift and decisive operation, the automaton dominion was fractured by this unrelenting force of Super Earth's military might. The rupture cut off a significant swath of automaton-held planets from their central command hub in Cyberstan. This disruption of supply lines and communications left the automaton forces scrambling to reorganize and recover, with their defenses on the cut-off planets severely weakened. With the automatons' domains fractured, the Helldivers wasted no time in pressing the advantage. The next operation was a coordinated blitz aimed at liberating key planets once taken by the enemy: Charon Prime, Charbal 7, and Cholpessa 4. Within a matter of days, the Helldivers liberated all of the designated worlds, cutting through the enemy's diminished defenses with surgical precision. However, the aftermath of the assault revealed a tragic truth: the planets were in ruin. Surveyors found extensive environmental devastation, the result of relentless automaton exploitation. Vast mines had been stripped bare of precious ore, leaving behind scorched earth and empty quarries. These once vibrant worlds had been transformed into industrial wastelands, places where dreams of colonization of new homes and communities for citizens had been shattered. The automatons' ruthless greed had consumed these planets for resources, denying the future of countless would-be settlers. Still, despite the ruin, the victory was a significant one. The Helldivers' lightning-fast assault had not only liberated these territories, but also struck a blow to the heart of the automaton occupation. While justice had not been fully served, and the environmental toll was immense, this operation had brought the galaxy one step closer to liberation. As the automaton theater of war continued great advancements, in response to the success of the initial phase of the Terminid Research Initiative, the Ministry of Science authorized a second one, with far more ambitious trials, aimed at further understanding the mysterious link between Terminid extermination methods and the yield of E710. To this end, High Command authorized the use of a rotating series of lethal methodology designed to eliminate large number of Terminids using various approaches, ensuring a broad spectrum of data. The objective was to eliminate 1 billion Terminids in order to advance scientific understanding and support ongoing research efforts. As the Helldivers proceeded with the extermination campaign, their efficiency and enthusiasm for the mission were as unwavering as ever. Increased Terminid aggression was expected, and indeed the enemy responded with heightened expansion efforts in retaliation. Despite these challenges, the Helldivers remained focused, pushing through waves of resistance to meet the target. In the meantime, a cybersecurity update caused a brief but disruptive outage in destroyer surveillance systems, leaving personnel to manually record their actions until repairs were made. At the conclusion of the operation, the results were deemed a resounding success. The Ministry of Science now had an extensive trove of data to continue its research, although the trial did not yield the anticipated breakthrough in terms of a clear connection between extermination methods and E710 production. No single method appeared to outperform the others in producing higher E710 yields. Nevertheless, the vast data set accumulated over the course of the trial proved invaluable. More unexpectedly, a new phenomenon emerged from the data. The frequency of Terminid mutations seemed to decrease as the proximity to Super-Earth increased. The finding suggests that the genetic variation in Terminid populations may not be randomly occurring, but are instead tied to deep-rooted sources within Terminid-controlled space. The precise cause of this anomaly remains unclear, and further investigation was required. Meanwhile, in the wake of the Helldivers' successful liberation of key territories, the Automaton forces, though fractured, had proven resilient. The threat posed by their new orbital weaponry, the orbital cannons, now loomed large. These massive platforms stationed across Automaton-controlled planets had been used to disrupt SEAF air superiority, targeting super-Earth fleets and delaying extractions. The cannons, designed to operate as a linked system across multiple worlds, presented a new challenge in the ongoing effort to reclaim occupied territories. Fortunately, intelligence revealed a critical vulnerability. Liberating any one of the Automaton planets would destabilize the targeting system, allowing a temporary return to standard extraction times. A second plan of action suggested that if 2 planets were liberated in quick succession, within 12 hours, the system would enter a severe state of disruption, yielding even shorter extraction times. With this intelligence in hand, the Helldivers were tasked with a high-risk operation: liberate the designated planets Wasat, Vega Bay, Wezin, Virilia 5, and Ustodu, while facing the direct threat of the orbital cannons. Despite the determination and sacrifice of millions of Helldivers, the operation ultimately failed. The Automaton's orbital cannon network proved more resilient than anticipated, with the cannons continuing to rain down hellfire on Helldiver forces, prolonging extractions and undermining war efforts. The cost of the failure was staggering, as countless Helldivers gave their lives in the attempt to break the enemy's stranglehold on Federation worlds. While the pilot shortages caused by these sustained operations had been addressed, the failure to disrupt the orbital cannon systems had marked a painful setback. Following a directive issued by High Command, the Helldivers were tasked with completing an efficacy review of available mines to assess their effectiveness in eliminating Liberty's enemies. They were tasked with eliminating 1.5 billion adversaries using the current arsenal of mine-based tactics. If the Helldivers failed to meet the target, High Command would authorize the urgent production of anti-tank mines as an addition to the Helldivers' weaponry. The review was seen as crucial as the current mine system had not been fully tested in such large-scale engagements. Should the Helldivers succeed, the status quo would be maintained and no additional weapons would be deemed necessary at that time. The operation commenced with the typical dedication expected from the Helldivers, who sought to leverage the current mines to their maximum potential. However, despite their relentless efforts, the mission fell short of the target. The arsenal, while effective in certain scenarios, proved inadequate for the scale of enemy resistance faced during the engagement, revealing significant gaps in existing mine strategies, particularly encountering heavier armored forces and rapidly moving targets. As a result, High Command made the decision to approve the immediate production of anti-tank mines on a large scale. These mines, designed to deal with increasingly well-armored and mobile enemy units, were rolled out fleet-wide in short order. However, the decision came at a significant cost. The funds required for their mass production diverted resources previously allocated for critical infrastructure projects, notably the much-needed schoolyard air quality improvement initiatives. Reports then began to surface of an overwhelming Terminid incursion on Sakaro 3. Initial assessments from SEAF indicated a strange new breed of Terminid. However, it was suspected that such claims were likely the result of poor training and overzealous reporting. Nonetheless, the scale of the assault was undeniable. The presence of the so-called new variants led to heightened concerns, and an urgent response was ordered from the elite Helldivers. Their mission was twofold: to eliminate the Terminid infestation on Sakaro 3 and to prevent the spread of any potential new threats to neighboring systems. The Helldivers' orders included the eradication of 500 million Terminids on Sakaro 3, as well as the liberation of Esker and Boar Rock, which had fallen under siege. Complicating matters was the detection of an unusual interstellar phenomenon, a massive Terminid spore cloud, unlike anything previously encountered. Spanning several light years, the cloud's sheer size and density was staggering. While Terminids were known to send spores between planets, nothing of this magnitude had been observed before. As the situation unfolded, it became clear that the spore cloud had played a pivotal role in the Terminid surge on Sakaro 3. Genetic analysis of the spores indicated a connection to these new Terminid variants, supporting the theory that the cloud was not merely a passive element but perhaps the source of the mutation. As the Helldivers began their operations, the bombardment of the embattled planets led to the collapse of several Terminid hives, weakening resistance and offering a temporary respite. However, even as they secured victory on the ground, the expanding spore cloud, dubbed the Gloom, remained a pressing threat, one that could not be easily eradicated. In the face of the growing threat posed by the Gloom and the relentless expansion of Terminid forces, the Federation found itself confronted with a precarious dilemma. The interstellar spore cloud continued to accelerate the Terminid spread, pushing the once-contained infestation towards new planets at an alarming rate. Yet, despite the urgency of this threat, the Federation could not afford to neglect the lingering menace of the Automatons, whose territorial annexations had steadily encroached upon Federation space. The final pocket of automaton resistance, comprising the isolated planets Trust and Vandalon 4, remained a significant weak point. If the Helldivers did not act swiftly to liberate these planets, the machines would reinforce their positions and further entrench their hold. Tasked with securing the automaton pocket and staving off the spread of Terminids, the Helldivers fought with unyielding determination to protect both Federation territory and its future. The outcome was nothing short of remarkable. The Helldivers succeeded in liberating Trust and Vandalon 4 while holding back 5 major attacks from the Terminids. The last remnants of automaton resistance in the Trigon sector were wiped out in a series of decisive strikes, and citizens across the Federation celebrated their hard-won victory, burning scrap metal in symbolic defiance of the machine's oppression. Despite the hard-won victory, the relentless spread of the Gloom continued to suffocate Terminid space, and the Federation faced a dire situation. The vast, impenetrable cloud of Terminid spores had now claimed entire star systems, and every vessel sent into the Gloom, whether manned or unmanned, had failed to return, ceasing all radio contact within minutes. The cloud, mysterious and deadly, was an enigma that could not be ignored. The Helldivers, ever the Federation's last line of defense, were tasked with a critical mission to procure viable Terminid samples from planets on the fringes of the Gloom, so that the scientists could study the composition of the spores and determine a potential strategy for combating the spread of the Terminid plague. The Helldivers' objective was to extract 45 million common Terminid samples from the planet Nivel 43, along with smaller batches of rare samples. These samples would provide the necessary material for an in-depth study into the nature of the Gloom and its connection to the accelerating Terminid mutations. True to form, the Helldivers completed their mission, securing the samples and ensuring the safe transport back to the Federation laboratories. However, despite their success, complications soon arose. Upon arrival, Super Earth High Command detected a batch of counterfeit samples within the most recent delivery. Though the majority of Helldivers performed their duty honorably, a small group had attempted to falsify their findings, submitting fake samples. As per Federation policy, those responsible for the deceit were swiftly dealt with, punished by the execution of their pet fish, a harsh but symbolic reminder of the gravity of the mission. The consequences of this deceit were far-reaching. Laboratories across Super-Earth space were now faced with the arduous task of filtering out the false samples, a process that significantly delayed research into the Gloom. The anticipated scientific breakthroughs that might have offered a breakthrough in the fight against the spore cloud were severely compromised. With the situation growing more dire and no immediate solution in sight, the Federation was forced to implement resettlement protocols for worlds located near the Gloom. These planets would need to be evacuated or fortified in anticipation of the growing Terminid threat, while efforts to counter the spread of the Gloom continued. The Helldivers' mission, while successful in part, had not yielded the decisive victory needed to turn the tide against this overwhelming interstellar plague. As the relentless spread of the Gloom continued to demand the Federation's attention, the Automatons, ever the opportunists, had used the diversion to inch ever closer to the heart of Super-Earth. The threat they posed was unmistakable. If left unchecked, their mechanized forces would soon encroach upon the developed worlds, home to the Federation's high-classification citizens, the very backbone of managed democracy. These individuals had demonstrated unwavering loyalty to the Federation's ideals, and their safety was paramount. The Helldivers were therefore tasked with pushing the Automatons back from the sectors closest to Super-Earth, while simultaneously defending against incoming attacks. The Helldivers acted with lethal effectiveness, liberating the planet Curia and holding firm against 3 separate automaton incursions. Their mission was bolstered by an unexpected but critical factor: the disgraced soldiers who had previously submitted counterfeit Terminid samples. As part of their punishment, these individuals were reassigned to the Federation's chemical weapon facilities, where they were tasked with assisting in the production of highly toxic chemical agents. Their work proved invaluable, as the chemical weapons they produced were integrated into the Helldivers' arsenal, most notably through usage of a new orbital gas strike. This augmented firepower played a crucial role in breaking the automaton advance, allowing the Helldivers to repel the mechanical menace with greater efficiency. The operation was a resounding success. The automatons were pushed back from critical sectors surrounding Super-Earth, ensuring the safety of the Federation's elite citizens and safeguarding their dedication to the ideals of managed democracy. As for the soldiers who had once betrayed their comrades, their debt to the Federation was considered repaid in full. Having completed their laborious task in the chemical weapons facility, they were granted a fresh start. New roles within the Federation, their slates wiped clean. Their actions had not only contributed to the defense of Super-Earth, but it also demonstrated that, even in the face of failure, there could be redemption through service. Still, the Federation found itself in a race against time as the Gloom continued its relentless expansion across Terminid space. Despite the valiant efforts of scientists, hindered by the need to filter out counterfeit samples, little had been learned about the true nature of the spore cloud. The Gloom now spanned nearly a dozen star systems, and its growth showed no signs of abating. Should it continue unchecked, the galaxy could be consumed within weeks, drowning countless worlds under a blanket of Terminid infestation. Yet even without a clear understanding of the cloud's origin or composition, the Federation would not stand idly by. The Helldivers were called upon to take decisive actions, deploying in full force to eradicate as many Terminids as possible and deliver a resounding message to the mindless swarm. Freedom will not be intimidated. The Helldivers' mission was one of mass extermination, specifically targeting the largest and most dangerous of the Terminids, the Bile Titans. These monstrous creatures, towering over the insectoid horde, were a symbol of the Terminid threat, their sheer size and destructive potential a physical manifestation of the Gloom's unchecked spread. Along with the Bile Titans, the Helldivers were tasked with eliminating 750 million Terminids, driving back the infestation to prevent it from reaching new worlds. The operation was a staggering success. The Helldivers, deploying every weapon at their disposal, exterminated vast swaths of Terminids and struck fear into the heart of the insect horde. 5 million Bile Titans were killed in brutal skirmishes, their towering forms collapsing as the Helldivers unleashed wave after wave of destruction. With the Bile Titans neutralized, the remaining Terminids found themselves less organized and more vulnerable. By the time the operation concluded, the Terminid swarm had been significantly thinned, and the spread of the Gloom had been halted, at least for the moment. The effects of the operation were immediately felt across the Federation. Citizens who had lived under the ever-present shadow of the Gloom reported high levels of defiance and pride. The sight of the Helldivers' successful assault seemed to reignite hope and resolve in the hearts of the people. While the true secrets of the Gloom remained elusive, one thing was clear. The Helldivers had once again proven that no force, whether machine or insect, could stand against the will of Super-Earth. Despite this, the Federation's strategic ambitions were increasingly hampered by critical shortages of vital materials necessary for the continued development of its most powerful weapons, specifically the orbital napalm barrages to be deployed by the super-destroyers. Every minute the shortages persisted represented an economic drain, costing the Federation valuable super credits and the labor of its citizens. In response, the Ministry of Defense ordered an immediate operation to rectify these shortages. Intelligence indicated that Vernon Wells held the key to solving this crisis. The planet was home to an enormous automaton repository of unexpanded polystyrene. Coupled with automaton scrap metal, readily available in the wake of their relentless militarism, this would provide the necessary components to jumpstart the production of the orbital napalm barrages. The mission, however, did not go as planned. Despite the Helldivers' heroic efforts, including the brutal decommissioning of millions of automatons, the mission failed to secure enough resources to resolve the supply shortage. The delay in the fleet-wide distribution of orbital napalm barrages was a significant blow, hindering the Federation's ability to quickly address both the automaton and Terminid threats. More concerning still, the automatons with their vast industrial capabilities continued to destroy natural resources on a galactic scale, churning out endless supplies of war materials at the expense of the galaxy's ecological balance. Left unchecked, these machines threatened to consume all the natural treasures of the galaxy, reducing planets to nothing more than smoldering husks of ash and metal. All the while, the Terminid outbreak that surged from the Gloom into the Jinji sector represented a critical challenge for the Federation. With colonies only weeks old, these newly established worlds were vital to the future prosperity of Super-Earth. Their loss would not only set back the Federation's ambitions, but would also deal a devastating blow to the families who had recently made these planets their homes. The Terminid swarm, emerging in unprecedented numbers from the Sten sector and other outlying regions, threatened to overrun the Xinji sector within days. Faced with this overwhelming threat, the Ministry of Expansion mobilized the Helldivers to hold back the two-pronged Terminid assault, giving the trapped civilian populations a fighting chance to escape before their homes could be consumed by the insectile tide. The Helldivers responded swiftly and decisively, defending key planets in the region. The operation proved to be a grueling test of strategy, resilience, and firepower, as the Helldivers were forced to balance defensive efforts with evacuation procedures. While the Terminids wreaked havoc across the Xinji sector, forcing thousands of families to flee their homes in desperation, the Helldivers did what they do best. The loss of life and property damage was substantial but remained within acceptable Federation parameters. The swift action of the Helldivers ensured that the majority of the sector's infrastructure and territorial claims were preserved, with the Ministry of Expansion's investments protected for the future. In the aftermath, evacuation efforts were successful, and the displaced families were soon returned to their homes. The Terminids, ever the shadowy foe, continued to hide their undemocratic activities behind the Shroud of the Gloom, and efforts to peer deeper into the cloud persisted. Meanwhile, in a brazen move that revealed the growing desperation of the Automatons, intelligence intercepted signals indicating a fresh territorial incursion aimed at seizing a vast titanium repository on the planet Imber. The Automatons, eager to bolster their war machine, sought to harvest these crucial resources for the construction of an enhanced strike force, likely intended to take advantage of the ongoing turmoil created by the Gloom. The Helldivers thus launched a decisive defense of Imber and its vital titanium reserves. Over the course of the mission, the Helldivers successfully repelled 6 waves of automaton attacks. Despite the Automatons' effort to overwhelm the defense and seize control of the titanium deposits, the Helldivers stood firm, ensuring the retention of these critical resources. Decrypted intelligence from the campaign further revealed that the Automatons, though thwarted in their immediate efforts, had not abandoned their plans. They were continuing to pursue the construction of a limited-use strike force, though the exact nature of the force remained unclear. Regardless, the denial of crucial resources would significantly delay their ability to expand their warfighting capabilities. The Helldivers were then, once again, called to the front lines to stem the growing threat posed by the Terminids, whose population was spiraling out of control. If left unchecked, the Terminid hives threatened to reach exponentially explosive levels of reproduction, further endangering the stability of Super-Earth and its citizens. The operation would focus on targeting medium-sized Terminid specimens, specifically the bile spewers and warriors, that formed the backbone of the swarming hives. By reducing their numbers, it was hoped that the wider population could be contained before it reached catastrophic proportions. Amid this urgent mission, the strategic opportunity arose to augment the Helldivers' arsenal with the powerful orbital napalm barrage. Key to this was the liberation of 2 automaton-controlled planets, Tarsh and Mastia, each housing significant factories that produced the essential polystyrene foam required to create napalm. With the liberation of Mastia, the path was cleared to take Tarsh, an automaton stronghold that had been isolated from its surrounding systems. Though fiercely defended, the weakening resistance on Tarsh allowed the Helldivers to press the advantage, ensuring that the orbital napalm barrage would be available for immediate requisition once the planet was fully secured. Despite the tactical victory on Tarsh and the successful acquisition of the orbital napalm barrage, the overall outcome was far from satisfactory. While the Terminid population was reduced, it fell short of the target numbers required to effectively control the spread. The bile spewers and warriors were culled, but the overall reduction was insufficient to prevent further outbreaks. As a result, the Ministry of Science devised its projections indicating that Terminid incursions would intensify, and citizens in threatened planets were warned to prepare for evacuation. Super-Earth citizens were subjected to new austerity measures, including an increase in work hours by 14% for all Class B and below workers. These additional burdens were yet another toll placed upon the citizens' shoulders as they continued to bear the weight of the ever-looming threat of Terminid fascism. In the face of the escalating threats from both automatons and Terminids, Super-Earth High Command chose to issue an urgent directive for an evaluation of the Helldiver force readiness. With recent adjustments to fleet-wide capabilities, the Helldivers were tasked with an ambitious goal to expand the influence of Super-Earth by liberating more planets than those lost to the enemy during the evaluation period. This was to be a show of strength and determination, a statement that the Helldivers were capable of holding the line and pushing back against the growing threats that encroached on the Federation's borders. Citizens on frontier planets were warned of a potential disruption to their daily lives, with the understanding that the fight for freedom would require personal sacrifice. The Helldivers executed their mission with the utmost determination, launching assaults across multiple sectors and defending strategic locations. However, despite their best efforts, the combined might of the enemy forces proved overwhelming. The Automatons, sensing an opportunity amidst the chaos, initiated a powerful and sustained offensive, targeting several key planets on the front lines. The Terminids likewise continued their ceaseless spread, pushing the limits of their numbers as they threatened to overrun any system in their path. Despite successful liberations, the total number of planets lost to the enemy's invasions outpaced the Helldivers' territorial gains. The operation thus ended in failure. While the Helldivers made tremendous sacrifices and fought valiantly to spread the light of freedom, the balance of success tipped in favor of the enemy's encroachments. High Command, in their evaluation of the operation, concluded that the Helldiver force readiness was moderately ready. This was a sobering assessment, as it fell short of the ideal. However, a key takeaway from the evaluation was the correlation between increases in weapon lethality and overall battlefield effectiveness, suggesting that further advancements in weaponry could tilt the balance in future engagements. The Helldivers were then tasked with securing a construction site for the highly anticipated Democracy Space Station, a gargantuan weapon that would reshape the galaxy in the name of managed democracy. Months earlier, the Helldivers had liberated the vital blueprints from the ancient archives of Planet X-45, but turning these plans into reality required a massive infrastructure push. The Democracy Space Station would serve as a symbol of democratic might and be used as a tool to secure strategic advantage across the galaxy. The first critical step of this monumental project was to secure a construction site. After careful consideration, the Helldivers chose to liberate Yelavar, securing an ideal location with a sufficiently strong magnetosphere to support the DSS's ambitious construction. With the site now in hand, a DSS logistics hub was immediately established nearby to oversee the infrastructure requirements. This success marked the beginning of a new phase in the war, one that would see the Helldivers leading efforts in advancing critical technologies in zero-gravity materials science, faster-than-light propulsion, and the massive staffing needs required to construct such a formidable structure. The construction of the Democracy Space Station would be a slow and vulnerable process. While the Helldivers' victory on Yelavar had secured a crucial foundation, the DSS would be exposed to attacks during its lengthy construction phase. If its developments were delayed for too long, enemy forces would discover its location and attempt to sabotage or destroy it. Despite these risks, the Helldivers' success on Yelavar provided a hopeful beacon for the future. With their protection and leadership, the Democracy Space Station was on track to become the galaxy's most powerful symbol of freedom and managed democracy. The Democracy Space Station thus entered the first of its construction phases. Once completed, the DSS would not only serve as a massive space station, but as a strategic level weapon. Its deployment would be determined not by centralized command, but by cutting-edge voting systems, allowing the Helldivers themselves to decide where and when to use the station's formidable capabilities. The final vision for the DSS was grand, an immense structure far larger than any super destroyer. The construction and operational potential for the DSS, however, hinged on scientific breakthroughs that could overcome the logistical challenge of moving such a colossal structure. Alcubierre warp drives, still in their infancy, had yet to achieve the necessary efficiency to move objects on the scale of a gigastructure. Thus, the Ministry of Science's efforts were focused on the establishment of a state-of-the-art xenoentomology center on the planet Turing, intended to develop high-efficiency drives capable of transporting the DSS and similar structures. Yet, the planet was not without its threats, as the Terminids sought to sabotage the project at every turn. Despite multiple attempts to disrupt construction, the Helldivers repelled the Terminid forces with exceptional strategic coordination. Meanwhile, the Automatons attempted to capitalize on the situation by attacking Mastia in a bid to sever the DSS logistics hub from its source, but the Helldivers' swift counteroffensive secured Mastia, even liberating Shelt in the process. The success of these missions allowed the Helldivers to hold Turing long enough for the groundwork of the new Xenoentomology Center to be laid. The center, now home to some of the finest minds in Terminid research and faster-than-light engineering, would soon begin the critical work of refining warp technology. Humanity was therefore on the cusp of a new era of interplanetary mobility, enabling the swift deployment of the DSS and its associated capabilities. As construction of the Democracy Space Station continued to progress with unwavering momentum, the next critical phase was initiated, the creation of the Deep Mantle Forge Complex. This new facility was designed to utilize the extreme heat and pressure near a planet's core to produce a chromium-cobalt-nickel alloy, a material strong enough to endure the immense force generated during the station's warp speed accelerations. Without this crucial alloy, the DSS would be vulnerable to catastrophic structural failure during its faster-than-light travel. However, the project faced an unforeseen challenge. Intelligence reports revealed that the Automatons, ever the industrious opponent, had already established deep mantle mining operations on the planet Chlorel. This revelation provided an opportunity. Liberating the site would not only deny the automatons access to valuable resources, but also expedite the construction of the forge by repurposing their facilities. The Helldivers were ordered to seize Chlorel and clear its deep mantle mines. The battle for Chlorel unfolded swiftly, with Helldiver forces advancing through the planet's surface to confront the remaining automatons entrenched in their subterranean holdings. Despite the initial strength of the Automaton Legion, resistance faltered as their strategic calculations seemed to indicate an inevitable defeat at the hands of the Helldivers. The collapse of resistance allowed the Helldivers to press their advantage, liberating the mining tunnels and clearing the way for Super-Earth miners to move in. Among the wreckage of the automaton mining operations, it was uncovered that the enemy had been working on their own metal alloy, an exceptionally light material seemingly designed for armor plating. This revelation raised immediate questions about the automatons' broader intentions and capabilities, suggesting that they might be developing new technologies to counter the growing threat of the DSS. Investigations into the nature of this alloy and its potential applications were launched as the Helldivers prepared for the next stage of their strategic efforts. In a stunning act of defiance and aggression, the automatons refused to accept the peaceful liberation of Chlorel and the subsequent construction of the Deep Mantle Forge complex. Rather than acquiesce to the loss of their mining operations, they launched a series of heavy assaults on the planet, determined to seize control and reverse the Helldivers' hard-won victory. The Helldivers were given a simple yet urgent mandate to hold Chlorel at all costs. The Helldivers successfully fended off 3 major automaton assaults on Chlorel, ensuring that the Deep Mantle Forge complex remained safe and operational. The forge, now fully constructed, began producing the crucial alloy needed to reinforce the DSS hull. With this new material, the DSS was one step closer to completion and its eventual deployment. Yet, the celebrations were tempered by a new threat. A data breach had been discovered at the DSS logistics hub on Tarsh. Although the breach was swiftly contained and the network quarantined, the possibility of sensitive information being stolen by the automatons left a shadow of doubt. While significant progress had been made on the DSS, the Xenoentomology Center on Turing had encountered a significant bottleneck in research: the limited availability of Terminid specimens. Faced with this dilemma, High Command ordered the establishment of a Terminid research preserve on Akamar 4. To ensure that no external Terminid forces could interfere, the Helldivers were tasked with establishing a strict planetary quarantine around Akamar 4, with a focus on preventing any outside Terminid influence from contaminating the preserve's controlled environment. The Helldivers launched a series of operations to secure the planets around Akamar 4, establishing a defensive ring around the preserve. The Helldivers did their duty gracefully, and the preserve was completed. With the preserve fully operational, the first collection of Terminid specimens were made, marking a significant breakthrough in E710 extraction and exploitation. The lessons learned from the earlier failures had been carefully applied to ensure the security of the preserve. Seaf bug wardens maintained constant surveillance over the Terminid population, while powerful electrified fences encircled the preserve both above and below ground. In the event of a containment breach, automated nuclear bombardments stood ready to neutralize any threat. The preserve was also home to a new and exciting venture, Tyranny Park. This area, designed for citizen tourism, allowed visitors to observe Terminids in their natural habitat. For those with a taste for adventure, the park even offered the opportunity for a big tyrant hunt, where well-paying citizens could hunt the most dangerous of the Terminid creatures. Despite the continued successes in the construction of the DSS, the war was far from over. The automatons launched a massive invasion of Matar Bay, led by their newly formed Jet Brigade, an elite detachment equipped with advanced jetpack technology designed for rapid assault and mobility. The invasion caught Helldiver forces off guard and was not merely an attack on territory, but a calculated attempt to discover the location of the DSS and its critical substations. The Helldivers were ordered to defend Matar Bay at all costs. The situation was dire. Numerous Seaf bases had already fallen, and reports indicated the presence of the devastating Jet Brigade leading the charge. Though the sheer scale of the assault was overwhelming, the Helldivers were determined to bring victory to the Federation. Despite their valiant efforts, Matar Bay ultimately fell to the automaton forces. The Jet Brigade, with its jetpack-enhanced mobility, proved to be a highly effective and deadly force, quickly overwhelming the defenders. The cost was staggering, with many Helldivers lost in the brutal battle. But in the chaos of the invasion, the automatons sustained significant losses as well. The Jet Brigade, though victorious in securing the bay, had been heavily diminished, leaving the automatons vulnerable to future counterattacks. The loss of Matar Bay was a heavy blow, but it was not in vain. The defense of the region had successfully delayed the automatons' ability to uncover the location of the DSS and its substations. The Helldivers' sacrifice had bought precious time that would prove essential in protecting democracy's most critical weapon. While the immediate danger had passed, it became painfully clear that the DSS needed additional protection to safeguard against any future attack. To create a protective buffer around the station, High Command identified the liberation of Lissith as the most urgent course of action. Should the Jet Brigade return, or if the Automatons regroup for another offensive, it would form a crucial defensive line. However, a new crisis quickly emerged. A Terminid outbreak had erupted near the Terminid Research Preserve. The preserve, vital to the continued construction of the DSS, housed critical research that could provide the final technological breakthroughs needed for the station's operation. The Helldivers now faced a difficult choice: expand the defensive perimeter around the DSS, or defend the preserve. After careful deliberation, the Helldivers made the difficult decision to prioritize the security of the DSS over the immediate defense of the preserve. The Helldivers swiftly mobilized and successfully liberated Lissith, pushing back the Automatons and solidifying the defense of the Democracy space station. This success allowed the DSS to advance to the third and final phase of its construction. With the infrastructure secure and defense strengthened, the station was now nearing completion. All of this was about to be put on hold, however, for Liberty Day was right around the corner. On this day, the Helldivers were given a rare respite in the midst of their tireless campaign, a chance to pause, reflect, and celebrate the very foundation of Super Earth and managed democracy. A time-honored tradition, Liberty Day was more than just a holiday. It was a reaffirmation of the values that the Helldivers fought to protect every single day. Across Super Earth, citizens engaged in festivities that blended joy with patriotism. The Helldivers were encouraged to partake in the celebration, and so they did, donning their favorite helmets and capes, saluting one another with newfound vigor, and commemorating the day in their own heroic fashion. Some orchestrated pyrotechnic displays of their own, while others took the opportunity to strike back at the enemy with renewed force, a reminder that even in the moments of celebration, the Helldivers never lost sight of their duty to defend freedom. As Liberty Day drew to a close, Super Earth stood brighter than ever. The televised lunar bombardment had filled the skies with fire and light, and the children eagerly devoured the last crumbs of commemorative sponge cake as their parents exchanged stories of valor and sacrifice. In the heart of it all, the Helldivers stood, heroes not only of Super Earth, but of the galaxy itself. Liberty had been celebrated, and tomorrow, the fight for it would continue, stronger than ever. As the war continued, and in a time of great need, multiple strategic priorities converged, demanding the full attention of the Helldivers. High Command issued a decisive order to secure critical intelligence on the Jet Brigade, protect the Terminid Research Preserve from external threats, and halt the Automatons' territorial expansion before they could further jeopardize the security of Super Earth. The mission began with a surge of momentum as the Helldivers launched an assault on the Automaton strongholds. In a stroke of fortune, a catastrophic weather event decimated enemy forces, clearing the path to Matar Bay. With the tide of the battle turning in their favor, Helldivers swiftly captured the key Automaton database, uncovering valuable intel on the location of the Jet Brigade staging ground, a critical strategic asset that could reveal the bot's plans for future offensives. Meanwhile, as Helldivers pushed forward to secure the Terminid Research Preserve, multiple invasion attempts from Automatons erupted across several fronts, threatening key Super Earth assets. Despite these harrowing assaults, the Helldivers succeeded in limiting the Automaton territorial expansion, ensuring that more planets would not fall under the oppressive weight of their mechanized control. However, the mission did not achieve all of its goals. The external threats to the preserve were not fully neutralized, leaving the invaluable research conducted at the Xenoentomology Center still at risk. Meanwhile, the data retrieved from the Automaton database had yielded concerning revelations. The Jet Brigade, though battered from their previous defeat, was recovering quickly and preparing for another offensive. Despite these setbacks, the third phase of the DSS construction was underway. While the station's structural components were nearly complete, the critical task of staffing it with the necessary workforce stood as the final hurdle before it could be activated. To meet this demand, the Ministry of Humanity sanctioned the relocation of over 1.3 million colonists to the DSS, a massive logistical effort that would provide both manpower and the symbolic commitment of the citizens who would serve aboard the station. As the Helldivers prepared to safeguard these settlers, they were faced with a significant complication: the ever-present threat of the Terminid Horde. The gloom-adjacent planets, which had been ravaged by Terminid attacks in recent months, were now the critical evacuation zones for the workers, who would make the DSS operational. Despite recent incursions along the Gloom border, the settlers, eager to escape the devastation and start anew, volunteered for the task. With the Automaton Jet Brigade still on the move, and the Terminids proving a constant menace, the Helldivers were called upon to defend these vital evacuation points. The planets of Terex, Cirrus, and Angel's Venture would be the staging grounds for the final push to ensure the successful relocation of the colonists. Throughout the campaign, the Helldivers faced numerous attacks from the Terminid Horde, including a particularly aggressive attempt to invade Boar Rock. yet the Helldivers' resilience and superiority led to a series of hard-won victories. In the end, the designated planets were successfully held, and the evacuees were safely relocated to the DSS, where they began accelerated training in weapons handling and station operations. With staffing now complete, the DSS could begin the critical process of fueling its 20-story tanks and preparing for its activation, an event that promised to reshape the course of galactic history. And history was indeed made. The Democratic Space Station had been fully constructed and was ready for activation. Before it could be brought online, one final step remained: the procurement of enough E-710 to power its high-efficiency drives. However, the Automaton Jet Brigade launched a devastating strike on the DSS logistics hub on the planet Tarsh. Their attack, swift and overwhelming, was a calculated move to sever the Helldivers' access to vital supplies and delay the activation of the DSS. Despite the effort of the Helldivers, the Automaton forces succeeded in capturing Tarsh, and with it, the location of the DSS itself. With the hub destroyed, the fate of the station now hung in the balance as the Jet Brigade set its sights on Yelavar, the next key target. During the invasion, an unexpected twist of fate occurred as a catastrophic security breach at the Terminid Research Center triggered a subterranean outbreak beneath Tyranny Park, a massacre that spread quickly to neighboring systems. The situation was dire, but the Helldivers remained resolute. Their fight could not end on these planets. They would hold their ground and defend the DSS at all costs. As the conflict raged on, the sufficient quantity of E-710 was reached, and the DSS was activated, and its strategic value became immediately apparent. It was more than just a space station, it was a beacon of hope, a symbol of resistance against the forces of tyranny, and the keystone in the Helldivers' campaign for a just and democratic galaxy. The station's advanced systems allowed for the coordination of tactical actions, resource distribution, and defense operations, all controlled by the Helldivers. With an active DSS, a looming Terminid gloom cloud, and the incursion of the Automatons nearing Super-Earth, the galactic war was reaching new heights of grandeur and terror the citizens of Super-Earth could have never fathomed. Only time would tell if the Federation could overcome the onslaught. For now, the battle continues. The next several sections of this video will contain breakdowns of each Helldiver faction and their units. We will start with Super-Earth, go into the enemy factions of Helldivers 1, and then the enemy factions of Helldivers 2. Super-Earth is humanity's homeworld, and the capital of the galaxy-spanning Super-Earth Federation. Super-Earth is the radiant beacon that illuminates the stars with the light of democracy. It is the beating heart of mankind's pursuit of liberation. Here reside the wealthy, the influential, and the proud. Those who have risen through their own efforts, achieving their dreams and securing their place in the world. The formation of Super-Earth's territorial sectors reflects a complex history of geopolitical evolution, shaped by the aftermath of the last Great War. These sectors, once home to distinct nations, now form the core of Super-Earth, each with its own unique landscapes, histories, and cultural remnants. Sector 1, formerly known as Oceania, is dominated by the vast, arid desert continent of Australia, alongside tropical islands and peninsulas that once belonged to the ancient continent of Asia. This sector is home to Megacity 1, a bustling metropolis at the heart of the region. The landscape, with its unforgiving deserts and scattered archipelagos, speaks to the resilience of the land's people who forged a modern society amidst challenging environments. Sector 2 was once known as China and contains parts of Asia, stretching northward into ancient Mongolia and Siberia. This region is a mix of rugged mountains, dense forests, and arid steppes, once home to wild horsemen whose spirit of freedom continues to echo through the land. Megacity 2 proudly sits here, alongside the Great Wall of Democracy, a symbol of the enduring fight for freedom. Sector 3, covering much of what was once Russia and Scandinavia, is a land of cold mountains, tundras, and icy fjords. To the north and south, wasteland zones created by the ravages of the last Great War render these areas inhospitable, yet, despite its harsh conditions, Sector 3 remains a stronghold of Super-Earth, home to Prosperity City, the illustrious capital of the Federation. The region's icy expanse is seen as a natural fortress, freezing the enemies of freedom in their tracks. Sector 4, formerly known as Europe, is one of the most urbanized sectors in Super-Earth. It has witnessed much of the foundational history of Super-Earth, with its plains, mountains, and sprawling cities embodying the spirit of human civilization. Megacity 4 stands at the sector's focal point, symbolizing both the progress and complexity of the region. To the north, a set of now uninhabitable islands is said to be the origin of the phrase, "How about a nice cup of liberty?" To the south, Sector 4 shares territories with Sector 5, which encompasses part of the Sahara Desert and the Atlas Mountains, regions once known as Africa. Sector 5, covering what was once India, Arabia, and parts of Africa, is a hot, arid land largely defined by deserts. However, it also contains two of the last three remaining rainforests on Earth. The sector is rich in cultural history, with rumors that it was here humanity first emerged. Home to the pyramids of Super Earth and Megacity 5, Sector 5 embodies both the ancient and the modern, a land where the past and future converge in the struggle for survival and prosperity. Sector 6, which encompasses the former regions of Latin America, is rich in biodiversity. The sector spans the central and southern portions of the ancient Americas, including the southern part of what was once North America. It is home to Megacity 6, a thriving hub of industry and culture, shaped by its storied history and diverse landscapes. Sector 7, once known as the United States of America, is considered the birthplace of Super Earth's core tenets of freedom and democracy. This sector is renowned for its patriotic citizens, whose love for their homeland and their compatriots would later be ingrained in all Super Earth citizens. Megacity 7, alongside the iconic Superstone Park, stands as a beacon of those values. Sector 7 represents a region steeped in the ideals of liberty, its land the foundation upon which Super Earth was built. The Federation of Super Earth is the largest faction in the Milky Way, comprising 261 planets spread across 55 sectors. Super Earth operates under a system of government called Managed Democracy, where citizens complete a form and an AI processes their answers to determine which candidate they truly wish to vote for. Super Earth is the galaxy's oldest known unitary sovereign state, governed by the core principles of prosperity, liberty, and democracy. All of its political institutions are based in Prosperity City, the heart of its governance. The government of Super Earth is made up of numerous administrative branches, each overseeing different levels of governance and ensuring the smooth operation of the state. As part of the Federation's delegation of power, authority is distributed through various executive ministerial departments. One such department is the Ministry of Truth, which is tasked with providing information rooted in facts and democratic values to the public. It serves as the primary source of truthful propaganda for the Federation, controlling a wide range of communication channels from the galactic wide web to the vast array of interstellar transmission frequencies. According to the ministry, their reports and evaluations are guaranteed to have an accuracy of 100%. The government of Super Earth has a long history of ruthlessly suppressing dissent. It is illegal to speak negatively about the Federation or the Super Earth government, and in severe cases, such expressions can lead to arrest or even termination. The Helldivers Corps is one of the primary military branches of the Super Earth Armed Forces, serving as the Chief's elite unit. Their mission is to defend and propagate the ideals of Super Earth against any intergalactic threats, no matter the cost. Highly trained and equipped with state-of-the-art technology, Helldivers are deployed deep behind enemy lines using the innovative Hellpod system, shock-absorbing pods launched directly from orbiting Super Earth destroyers. In Super Earth society, Helldivers are celebrated and revered as heroes, and those who fall in service are honored as martyrs for Super Earth. Citizens who eagerly enlist in the Super Earth Armed Forces, driven by patriotism and the desire to protect others, may have the chance to be drafted into the Helldivers Corps, a distinction considered one of the highest honors. To endure the grueling training and earn the right to wear the Helldivers cape, a symbol of freedom and hope for Super Earth and its people, is a source of immense pride, unrivaled by nearly any other achievement. The bugs are a highly evolved species, having spent millions of years adapting and thriving in the natural world, always emerging as the dominant force in their environment. They are intelligent beings that live in small organized groups, typically consisting of 3 to 10 individuals. While the exact method of their spacefaring capabilities remains unknown, it's believed they may use interplanetary impacts, such as those from meteoroids or even small planetoids, to launch their offspring or resilient microbes into space where they can travel between worlds. Scouts are the low-ranking, mindless laborers of the bug species. They appear in overwhelming numbers, relying on sheer quantity to make up for their lack of strength in combat. These creatures can be swiftly eliminated with a well-thrown grenade or in close combat. The Scouts' primary danger lies in their ability to release spores, which can summon additional bugs from nearby areas. Vanguards exhibit traits that seem to fall somewhere between a stalker and a standard scout. Vanguards have the ability to launch themselves into the air using their strong hind legs, and they release spores at a much faster rate than their less aggressive counterparts. Thought to be an evolved form of the Stalker, Shadows possess enhanced regenerative abilities while retaining the same fragile armor as their predecessors. They also maintain the camouflage ability of the Stalker, but have developed a new method for releasing spores that attract other bugs to their location. Known by various names, such as hunters, lurkers, or stalkers, these strange bugs have developed the ability to blend into their surroundings by changing the color of their skin. Often considered the more intelligent member of their species, they are capable of holding back from attacking until they perceive the right moment to strike. With their exoskeleton, their primary advantage lies in their ability to remain unseen using surprise as their key weapon. The warrior is a moderately armored, mid-sized enemy that tends to charge directly at its target without much regard for strategy. Lacking advanced tactics, they will often walk straight into gunfire. While their armor offers protection against minor blows, well-aimed shots can quickly deal lethal damage. The elite shares many traits with the warrior, but with heavier armor and greater durability. Their reinforced plating provides solid protection, so precise aiming and armor-piercing rounds are recommended to deal with them effectively. Luckily, they are just as lacking in intelligence as their warrior counterparts and can be easily outmaneuvered. The Impaler presents a unique threat compared to other bugs. It buries its head underground, extending its tentacles through tunnels to strike suddenly when they emerge near its target. While the tentacles themselves are highly dangerous, the creature exposes a vulnerable spot when it burrows them, indicating a surprising lack of self-preservation instinct. These large mindless creatures are characterized by their thick outer shell and immense strength. Slow and unwieldy, they can be easily deceived or redirected. However, they are capable of charging at impressive speeds, though their turning ability is severely restricted. The Behemoth is an even more heavily armored variant of the tank, completely encased in thick plating that requires anti-tank weapons to defeat. Its armor is so durable that it can withstand multiple hits before being brought down. Despite its massive size, it retains the ability to charge, making it a fearsome adversary, especially in open terrain. Whispers from across the void speak of a terrifying black-colored bug, fierce, brutal, and unyielding in battle. These nightmare-inducing creatures continue to fight even when gravely disfigured. Scientists believe these insects function as the counterparts to Super-Earth military leaders, and thus they have been aptly dubbed commanders. The Bug Hive Lord is a formidable enemy capable of creating new tunnels for the bug hives, and, if left unchecked, it will burrow through an entire planet's crust, establishing a network of tunnels. Primarily operating underground, they are incredibly difficult to target and eliminate. As such, any opportunity to strike at a Hive Lord must be seized, without hesitation. Once human, these renegades have turned their backs on the peaceful ideals of Super-Earth, now fixated on chaos, destruction, and anarchy. With access to primitive technology, they have become obsessed with altering their bodies, fusing them with machines in a misguided attempt to transcend their humanity and find greater purpose. The cyborg leaders declared independence from Super-Earth, aggressively proclaiming that Super-Earth's ideals are a lie and its citizens are enslaved by propaganda, hoping to recruit more followers to their radical and dangerous cause. This soldier is typically the leader of patrol squads, armed with a grenade launcher integrated into their arm. They use it to launch alarm flares, signaling for reinforcements, as well as to unleash devastating high-explosive attacks on their enemies. The Legionnaire is a heavily armored squad leader soldier, taking a cue from the brute force of the Hulk by wielding a large protective shield. While still vulnerable to anti-tank weaponry, the Legionnaire poses a heightened threat to liberty and democracy due to its formidable defense and leadership on the battlefield. A former member of Super-Earth, the Initiates are disillusioned rebels who now serve in the Separatist forces. These low-ranking soldiers are often looked down upon by more heavily modified war machines within their ranks. As part of their indoctrination, a weapon is typically affixed to the Initiate's arm, marking their shift to a life of hostility and rebellion. The Immolator is a grotesque transformation of once peaceful soldiers from the Federation of Super-Earth, now corrupted by a mix of body modifications and implants. About 30% of their composition is steel, the result of their twisted evolution into these perverse war machines. Armed with a short-range flamethrower, the Immolator can quickly incinerate its target, turning even the most innocent civilians into ashes in mere moments. Helldivers caught in the flames are advised to drop to the ground or activate their Lift 850 jump pack to help put out the fire. The Comrade represents the middle stage of the cyborg hierarchy. Fully immersed in their warped ideology, they engage in combat with a powerful cannon arm for close-range assaults and wield a melee blade, often used to execute captured enemies. It is believed that Comrades are driven by the need to prove their worth within cyborg society, which makes them highly motivated and ruthless in battle. Their ambition to climb the ranks pushes them to be relentless killers, eager to demonstrate their value through violence and bloodshed. Formerly Separatist soldiers in the service of the Cyborgs, Berserkers have been pushed to the edge of madness by excessive cybernetic enhancements and surgeries that have spiraled out of control. Obsessed with transforming themselves into brutal close combat machines, they charge at their enemies with relentless aggression. While they are incredibly dangerous in close quarters, their speed can be slowed down with a few well-aimed shots, providing an opportunity to neutralize them before they reach their target. The Butchers are thought to be the twisted surgeons behind the Cyborgs' implantations, transformed into monstrous abominations. Their bodies, grotesquely fused with bulky, hinged flesh, are incredibly resilient, able to absorb staggering amounts of damage. Once close, they charge at their opponent, wielding heavy weapons with devastating force, aiming to crush their enemies in close-quarter combat. The Cyborg Hounds are horrific, rabid versions of dogs, enslaved and repurposed by the Cyborgs. Agile and relentless, they often target fallen soldiers, aiming to take the final blow. However, their light armor makes them vulnerable, and they can be quickly taken down with a bayonet strike. The Grotesques, as their name infers, are truly monstrous. Thought to be the former initiates who were gravely wounded in battle and then grotesquely regenerated into mindless, relentless creatures, they charge blindly at their foes with little purpose beyond destruction. These abominations stand as a dark testament to the twisted practices of the Cyborgs. In truth, putting them out of their misery is an act of mercy, ending their tortured existence. The Hulks are towering figures, entirely encased in heavy metal armor, and armed with the most devastating firepower the Cyborgs can produce. While they are formidable in strength and durability, their wills have been crushed, leaving them as little more than mindless instruments of destruction. These hulking giants represent the pinnacle of the Cyborgs' twisted ambitions, though few ever attain this grotesque form. For most, the transformation into such an imposing machine is the ultimate, albeit horrifying, goal. Cyborg forces occasionally deploy infantry fighting vehicles to transport grotesques into battle. These heavily armored war machines are equipped with powerful cannons and exceptional protection, capable of withstanding most forms of attack. Their armor is resilient enough to shrug off all but the most concentrated anti-tank fire, and even then, a direct hit may not necessarily be enough to destroy them depending on the angle of impact. These towering giants surpass even the Hulks in size and strength. They represent the pinnacle of cyborg society, wielding immense power to dominate and control their cybernetic subordinates. These tyrannical figures are the true architects of the cyborgs' regime's oppression. Cyborg siege mechs embody the extreme of self-modification practice, with little to no trace of their original human form left after their transformation. These monstrosities are heavily armed, equipped with anti-tank turrets, and armor thick enough to rival that of tanks. Engaging these monstrous machines requires heavy firepower, as they are formidable opponents capable of withstanding most conventional attacks. The Squith are a highly advanced species with a civilization that has persisted for hundreds of thousands of years. They wear ceremonial robes and have developed an intricate and highly sophisticated neural network that enables their space travel. Having taken their first cautious steps into interstellar exploration, the Squith have also begun producing weapons of mass destruction on a grand scale. As such, they represent a significant threat that the people of Super Earth cannot afford to overlook. The Scout unit is equipped with a highly advanced cloaking device, rendering it almost undetectable. It is believed that these drones are used by the Illuminate civilization to maintain tight surveillance on their surroundings. On the battlefield, they serve two purposes. They are deployed to gather intelligence on enemy positions and, when necessary, can teleport in more heavily armored warriors to reinforce their position. Watchers are essentially more heavily armored variants of the Observers, enhanced with a shield for added defense. The additional defense allows them to endure longer on the battlefield, providing them with precious time to alert their comrades in the case of danger. The Obsidian Observer is thought to be a more advanced and weaponized iteration of the Watcher, one which uses weaponized nanotechnology. Tripods are three-legged combat machines under the control of the Illuminate, designed to use electrostatic technology to capture, subdue, and torture their prey. These robotic units serve as a dark mechanical counterpart to their aquatic creators, embodying the cruel and oppressive nature of the Illuminate's forces. Specialized in stealth and hit-and-run tactics, Hunters are elite soldiers equipped with long-range electro-pulse gauntlets capable of vaporizing the air over distances of up to 10 kilometers. The ionized air trail preceding their shots is visible to the naked eye, allowing for the possibility of dodging the attack before the projectile is fired. For the Illuminate, ascending to the rank of Hunter is a crucial first step on the path to becoming an illusionist, a higher tier in their ranks. In Illuminate society, knowledge is the foundation of the hierarchy, with those who accumulate enough wisdom rising to the rank of illusionist. The role of apprentice is the final stage before this transformation. Apprentices are formidable opponents, often appearing in the vanguard of an Illuminate assault. They wield powerful nanotechnology capable of incapacitating foes from a distance before closing in to engage in brutal melee combat, using their advanced weaponry to slice through their enemies with deadly precision. Outcasts are apprentices who failed to achieve the required level of knowledge and were cast aside by Illuminate society. Shamed for their inability to learn quickly enough, they are relegated to the front lines, cloaked in a stealth field and armed with only basic melee weapons. These individuals serve as a grave reminder of the Illuminate's harsh caste system, where failure to meet intellectual standards results in being discarded and forced to fight and die in battle. The Strider is a more heavily armored variant of the Tripod, equipped with enhanced shields and tougher plating. As the heavy infantry of the Illuminate forces, Striders are deployed to break through enemy lines, using their powerful electric attacks to inflict severe pain and disrupt formations. The Obelisk is a heavily fortified dome-shaped structure equipped with powerful shielding and the ability to teleport itself. It can generate an energy wall that allows Illuminate forces to pass through while blocking everything else. However, when the Obelisk activates the defensive barrier, it exposes its core, leaving it vulnerable as its only means of protecting itself is its shield. Illusionists are highly esteemed within Squith society, possessing the ability to manipulate other sentient beings through advanced nanobot technology. Soldiers on the front lines have reported experiencing vivid hallucinations, an overwhelming sense of dread, and a general loss of will to fight when confronting these twisted individuals. In addition to their mind-controlling abilities, illusionists are protected by a shield similar to that of the Tripods, making them formidable opponents in battle. Council members are the supreme rulers of the Illuminate species, wielding immense political power and control over their most devastating weapons of mass destruction. They share similarities with illusionists in their abilities, but are distinguished by their higher status and significantly stronger defenses. Encountering a council member on the battlefield presents a rare and critical opportunity to weaken the Illuminate threat, as taking down one of these figures would severely diminish their influence and capabilities. Intelligence indicates that the Illuminate Great Eye is a massive AI entity tasked with overseeing their society, ensuring conformity by correcting any behavioral or even cognitive irregularities. These formidable creatures are heavily armored and may possess crucial control over the Illuminate's weapons of mass destruction. It is critical that the Great Eyes are eliminated whenever the chance arises, as doing so could disrupt their control and potentially cripple their access to devastating technology. Terminids, once casually called bugs before being formally classified, are fast-moving swarm-based extraterrestrials. They primarily assault with their sharp claws and corrosive bile. These creatures have since spread across the galaxy to the east of the Sol system. Driven purely by an instinct to reproduce, expand, and eradicate democracy, the Terminids are a rapidly evolving menace, an ever-adapting infestation with the potential to consume and disenfranchise every child on every world they invade. The Scavenger is the most prevalent and least formidable of the Terminid species. Scavengers are largely devoid of higher thought, driven by basic instincts. They will relentlessly move towards Helldivers, taking the most direct route and overcoming any terrain or obstacles in their way in order to attack with their claws. Additionally, Scavengers can release a pheromone cloud that triggers a bug breach. The Bile Spitter is a small variant Terminid, believed to be a juvenile form of the Bile Spewer. Bile Spitters target Helldivers at close range, launching small globules of bile that slow their movement and inflict gradual damage as the corrosive substance eats away at them. The Pouncer, also called the Hopper, seems to be a young form of the Hunter. Using their wings, Pouncers can jump long distances straight at Helldivers. However, their leaps are not always precise, often resulting in them either falling short or overshooting their target. When they're not jumping, they will take the most direct route towards the Helldiver, climbing over obstacles and terrain in an effort to attack with their claws and stylets. The Warrior is a medium-sized, lightly armored Terminid known for its slow movement. It is the ultimate result of a species designed for unchecked mindless expansion. In controlled environments, they have been seen to disembowel baby cows in less than a second. If a warrior loses its head, it may enter a berserker state, during which its behavior changes. It will charge directly at its attacker, attempting to drag the Helldiver down with it, and it experiences a surge in both speed and attack power. The quickest way to kill a warrior is to destroy its head. If it enters a berserker state, Helldivers have two options: eliminate it with firepower or wait for it to bleed out. Warriors will also be killed by destroying two of their legs, which will stop them from entering the berserker state. The Hive Guard is a medium-sized Terminid, featuring light armor across its beige-colored body, with black medium armor plates covering the front of its legs and head. While hunkered down, the Hive Guard remains completely stationary, staying in this position as long as it's under fire. Helldivers can exploit this vulnerability by flanking its unprotected sides. The troublesome hunters are adept at evading incoming attacks by making rapid jumps. While this behavior might seem to suggest intelligence, scientists argue that it is simply a primal reflex, much like a housefly dodging a swatter. These creatures frequently try to outmaneuver their prey by circling around and seeking cover to stay out of sight before advancing for the attack. When closing in, hunters will leap at their target from close quarters, using their claws and stylus to strike. While a single hunter is relatively weak, they become far more dangerous in groups, particularly when supported by other enemies like chargers, and should be avoided in such situations. A byproduct of Terminid gene splicing research, stalkers have developed the ability to blend into their surroundings to the point of near invisibility. However, nothing can escape the purifying light of freedom indefinitely. The camouflage of a stalker is compromised when it takes damage or when it strikes. Despite lacking protective armor, stalkers are more resilient than regular hunters or other medium-sized Terminids. Their attacks possess enough force to knock back and disorient Helldivers, making them high-priority threats that should be dealt with immediately when encountered. The Shrieker is a medium-sized, unarmored flying Terminid with large wings known for using hit-and-run tactics. It swoops in to strike at Helldivers before quickly retreating back into the sky. Shriekers typically emerge from Shrieker nests if one is nearby. Bile spewers first emerged after accidental spills of toxic chemicals on Terminid E710 farms. These creatures have a distended thorax, packed with several metric tons of corrosive acid. Bile spewers seem to be fully matured bile spitters with significantly enlarged abdomens. They unleash powerful streams of bile that can both slow down their targets and, if the Helldiver is caught in a direct hit, can be fatal. Nursing spewers are massive hulking creatures with tiny faces and enormous abdomens swollen with orange eggs. Nursing spewers appear to belong to the same species as the bile spewer and are likely either gravid females who haven't been exposed to the toxic E710 runoff or subadult forms that have yet to reach full maturity. The Brood Commander is a rare and formidable strain known for its intense bloodlust and its disdain for democracy and the right to vote. It commands its fellow Terminids through a combination of pheromone-like spores and piercing authoritarian shrieks. In addition to possessing greater health than a warrior, the Brood Commander has the ability to call forth warriors to join the battle. It will charge directly at Helldivers, attempting to trample or smash them under its immense strength. The Alpha Commander is a larger, more formidable version of the Brood Commander, distinguished by its darker appearance and superior health and durability. It has the ability to summon enhanced warriors, which are notably quicker and more aggressive than the standard warrior, making them even more dangerous in combat. The Charger is a massive, heavily armored Terminid known for its aggressive behavior. True to its name, it charges directly at Helldivers, aiming to bash or trample them, often causing concussions and potentially launching them through the air. In close combat, Chargers will also use their powerful claws to strike at their targets. It is also rumored that they are particularly skilled in the art of online propaganda and misinformation. The Charger Behemoth is a more resilient variant of the Charger, featuring reinforced angled armor that enhances its health and durability, making it significantly tougher than the standard Charger. The Spore Charger is another unique version of the Charger, characterized by spores that cover its body, releasing a dense fog over a wide area to obscure its location and the surrounding environment. Upon death, it detonates, spraying corrosive acid across everything in its vicinity. Impalers tunnel their three-bladed tentacle head underground, allowing them to surface near Helldivers in order to obstruct and assault them. The Bile Titan is an enormous, heavily armored Terminid super heavy, seemingly the final evolution of a bile spitter. Despite its massive size, it can rapidly close the distance with Helldivers, unleashing deadly bile in a manner similar to a bile spewer. Its immense claws can also crush any Helldiver unfortunate enough to be close by. As the largest known Terminid strain, a single Bile Titan is capable of wiping out an entire Sief platoon. Engaging it without the backing of a powerful orbital stratagem is strongly discouraged. The Automatons are soulless, bloodthirsty machines, programmed solely for slaughter and violent socialist destruction. Their origins remain unknown, but their relentless disdain for freedom poses a grave threat to all citizens of Super-Earth. Be advised, attempting to uncover the Automatons' origins is considered a direct violation of Super-Earth's democratic principles. Super-Earth also reminds its citizens that any involvement with automaton propaganda is classified as socialist terrorism. The Trooper, also known as the Raider, is a lightweight infantry automaton armed with a laser assault rifle. These units are essentially just weapons with legs, primitive imitations of consciousness, combined with machine guns and rocket launchers. Unlike Super-Earth, the bots appear to think that outfitting disposable cannon fodder with heavy weaponry is the answer to every challenge. A rough imitation of military commanders, the Commissar is enhanced with marginally faster processing and a basic command subroutine. It generally avoids combat when it can, displaying an utter lack of courage while remaining completely devoid of sentience. The Brawler is a light infantry automaton armed with dual swords. Brawlers relentlessly advance on Helldivers, swinging their swords once they close the distance. The MG Raider is a light infantry automaton armed with a laser machine gun. Its weapons can fire almost without interruption, only pausing briefly after every 12 shots, making it highly lethal at medium to close range. MG Raiders are easily identifiable by two heat-sink fins protruding from the power pack mounted on their back. The Rocket Raider is a light infantry automaton armed with a rocket launcher. Thanks to their compact size and preference for engaging from a distance, Rocket Raiders can be a constant nuisance. Their rockets can send Helldivers flying, leaving them vulnerable to attacks from other automatons. The Assault Raider is a light infantry automaton outfitted with a jump pack, a laser pistol, and a sword. The Jet Brigade variants are capable of coordinating their jumps, allowing them to synchronize their movements and potentially overpower a Helldiver. The Marauder is a light infantry automaton armed with a laser assault rifle and serves as a lightly armored version of the Trooper. The Scout Strider is a basic automaton vehicle, a walking turret operated by the limited intelligence of an automaton trooper. It represents another failed attempt to mimic true intelligence, as its creators tried to exert control over a machine even more primitive than themselves. While it moves quickly in open terrain, its rotation speed is sluggish. It's formidable when engaged head-on, but highly vulnerable from behind as the rider has no armor. A light vehicle armor shield on the front protects the operator. The Scout Strider frequently fires its powerful laser cannon at targets without warning, making it difficult to avoid. The Reinforced Scout Strider is an enhanced and more lethal version of the Scout Strider, replacing the Trooper pilot with fully automated controls. It also adds 4 heavy rockets to complement its fusion repeater, making it a far more dangerous adversary. The Berserker is a brutal, primitive creation, with CPUs embedded in each of its chainsaws, programmed for a single purpose: closing the distance between the saws and their target as quickly as possible. As they charge towards Helldivers to attack, they let out a distinctive screech. Though they pose no threat outside of melee range, the real danger of Berserkers lies in their tendency to attack in groups of 3 or more. The Ironclad Devastator is designed to crush those who oppose the automaton's totalitarian ideology, armed with a wide variety of brutal weaponry, including arm cannons, shields, machine guns, and rocket launchers. Devastators advance slowly towards Helldivers while firing their arm cannon in a 2-shot burst, pausing for about 2 seconds before firing again. If a Helldiver gets too close, the Devastator can deliver a powerful punch, knocking them down. Additionally, if a Helldiver is lying prone, the Devastator can stomp on them, further adding to the threat. The Heavy Devastator is a variant of the Devastator, outfitted with a laser-heavy machine gun and a large ballistic shield, making it an even more formidable force on the battlefield. The Rocket Devastator is a variant of the Devastator, armed with rocket pods and a double-barreled laser arm cannon, enhancing its destructive power at range. The Gunship is an airborne automaton vehicle armed with rocket launchers and laser machine guns. It is a highly dangerous adversary, distinguishing itself from other automatons with its speed and agility, making it difficult to hit. Gunships maintain a safe distance from their targets and are heavily armored, often requiring significant firepower to bring down. Due to the substantial threat they present, they should be prioritized for targeting in most combat scenarios. Like all automaton units, the lumbering hulk is mindlessly designed for one purpose: to deliver overwhelming firepower. If encountered, Helldivers are advised to immediately request the largest available orbital bombardment. The Hulk comes in 3 distinct variants, each with its own weaponry and attack pattern. The Bruiser uses a rocket launcher on its left arm and a laser machine gun on its right. The Scorcher is equipped with a flamethrower on its left hand and a buzzsaw on its right, while the Obliterator is armed with dual rocket launchers. The Annihilator tank is a massive, heavily armored automaton vehicle equipped with a powerful heavy fusion cannon, as well as coaxial and hull-mounted fusion repeaters, making it a formidable force on the battlefield. The Shredder tank is armed with a fusion autocannon turret, capable of delivering sustained, devastating firepower. The Barrager tank, also known as the Rocket tank, is armed with multiple rocket launchers, enabling it to deliver a barrage of rockets on its enemies. The Factory Strider is a colossal, heavily armored, 4-legged automaton troop transport, designed to periodically deploy 4 Devastators from its undercarriage. It is equipped with twin Gatling lasers mounted beneath its chin and a modified cannon turret atop its body, capable of firing a 3-round burst. Once deployed, it can function as a walking automaton fabricator. With its formidable armament and heavy armor, it demands a response of coordinated firepower and relentless aggression to be dealt with effectively and immediately. And that, my fellow patriots, is the entirety of the lore from the Helldivers universe. If you have any suggestions for other lore dives you'd like to see, please leave a comment so that I can consider it for a future video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm looking forward to the next video with all of you.